Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the CRA meeting for November 13th, 2025. First of all, before we get to our invocation this morning, we're going to stand for a moment of silence for Ybor City, for those who lost their lives, those who were injured, and those whose sense of security were also tragically lost. So if we could stand for a quick moment of silence, and then we'll introduce our invocation. Thank you. Board Member Maniscalco.
Yes. It's my pleasure this morning to welcome Pastor Alan Harris, a native of Missouri, commenced his preaching ministry at the age of 19 and has served in full-time ministry since he was 22 years old. He graduated from John E. Lewis High School in Springfield, Virginia, then obtained his bachelor's in biblical studies from Washington Bible College in Lanham, Maryland. His hunger and desire to be enriched intellectually and spiritually led him to matriculate at Southern Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, where he obtained his Master's of Divinity and Master's of Theology. Pastor Harris also holds an Executive Master's of Business Administration from Virginia Union University. He has the distinct honor of serving as the lead servant of the historic Beulah Baptist Institutional Church in Tampa, Florida. Since the beginning of his tenure in 2021, both online and in-person attendance has increased significantly. New ministries have been implemented and improvements to the church's facilities have been made. Pastor Harris has also intentionally emphasized the importance of Beulah being actively involved in the community. He has been married to the lady of his dreams and lifelong best friend, Joy Harris, for 19 years, and they are proud parents of their beloved son and daughter, Isaiah Allen Harris, who is currently 14 years old, and Aviana, who is 19 months old. Pastor Harris's favorite Bible verse can be found in 1 Corinthians 15:10a, but by the grace of God, I am what I am, Pastor Harris.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Heavenly Father, how thankful and grateful we are for this another day which you have allowed us to see. And truly, Father, as you have given us an opportunity to experience new grace and fresh mercy, we don't take it for granted, God, that when we laid down last night, that, God, you didn't have to allow us to see this new day. So, Father, we are thankful, Lord, for another day that you have allowed us not only to see, but another day, God, that you have allowed us to experience. Father, it reminds us that you still have a plan and a purpose for each and every one of our lives. So, Father, as we have gathered in this place on this morning, Father, we realize that we can do nothing without you. So, God, as we thank you, Lord, for both leadership and citizens of this great city, Father, as decisions have to be made and as various topics will be discussed, as always, God, we pray for your leading, we pray for your guidance, and we pray for your wisdom, that, God, that we would hear your voice ever so clearly. This is our prayer that we pray in my Lord's name and for his sake, and let all those in agreement say, Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board Member Clendenin.
Yes, good morning, Board Member, Board Chair, Councilwoman Hurtak. I wanted to address what you said about the moment of silence, because it's so moving, and I'm very much appreciative of the fact that you recognize that, and also the insecurity that the LGBT community felt. And it really struck with what the pastor said this morning about, I am what I am. And for the folks that gathered in this location, they went there and assuming a safe space, and far too often in this country and around the world, there aren't enough safe spaces for people who identify differently than others. And even though it wasn't a targeted attack, it still rattles people to the core, and especially after the Pulse nightclub incident and other incidents around the world. And I really do appreciate, on behalf of the LGBT community, this council's respect for that, And I know we've had several members of the community, of this council, speak to that issue, and thank you very much. Thank you.
So we're going to do roll call. We have a couple of board members absent today, so.
Miranda. Maniscalco. Here. Hurtak.
Here.
Clendenin.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Vieira. We have physical quorum.
Okay. We have a new attorney with us today. If you'd like to just quickly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Patrick Brack.
Oh, you have to put your, there you go. It's got to be red.
One more.
There you go. They're trying to help.
No?
There you go. There.
How about now? Okay.
There.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Patrick Brackens. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm a partner of Cliff Shepherd's and Shepherd Smith Hand and Brackens, PA. And I believe Cliff is here also virtually, but I'm here to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Happy to have you. Okay. Can someone adopt the minutes from the September 11th, 2025 CRA meeting?
Second.
I have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco, a second from Board Member Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we need to, because we don't have any of the past chairs here, we need to temporarily appoint a co-chair for this meeting.
Board, Guido Maniscalco.
I don't want it, so I'll go with that. He leaves at 11.
Oh, that's right.
Well, but we're all gonna leave.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it, or Councilmember Young, or Board Member Young.
Who,
Will you
Bill,
do it?
Bill, do you want it?
Fine, yeah. I'll take
Okay.
it.
Okay. I didn't think you wanted it.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna force him.
Okay, so all in favor for Bill for co-chair today?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, excellent. Welcome aboard. Sorry.
You must have a lot of new business coming.
Yeah. So we need Director McCray to come help us with the agenda review. Got a lot going on today.
Yes, good morning, Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA Director. Pleasure to be here this morning. Would like to make a couple of adjustments to the agenda. Number one, we would like to, we have a presentation from the Planning Commission and Ms. Melissa Zoranita. We would like to move that up on the front end before the report from the CAC member from Tampa Heights,
So do you want before or after public comment?
before if possible.
Okay, so we'll do that next. Okay, so I
And
have a motion to put the Planning Commission before public comment. Okay. Oh, yeah, so Board Member Maniscalco, seconded by Board Member Young. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
And we'd like to move item 16 to staff reports, to the top of staff reports related to the Tampa Fire Museum.
Okay, so we have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco, seconded from Board Member Carlson. And where exactly do you want that on the schedule?
Right at the top of staff, under staff reports.
Under staff reports, okay. So number 16, we're moving in front of number 1. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the agenda by Board Member Maniscalco, a second by Board Member Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So we will then begin with the Planning Commission. We have some exciting news.
Yes, good morning. Melissa Zornita, Executive Director of the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. Thank you so much for having me here today. I get to do something fun and exciting today. So we recently held our 43rd Planning and Design Awards at the end of October. And the CRA was recognized in a number of different awards. First, I want to mention one that the CRA did not apply for, but contributed considerably to, which was the improvements to Tampa Union Station. Thanks to the downtown CRA's approval of a $4 million offset, much needed repairs and remodeling work required to bring the train station to current standards. were recognized in the awards with an award of outstanding contribution. So we all know what an important asset that train station is to the community, so thank you for your contribution to that. So the first of the several awards that you all won is an award of excellence to the Kid Mason Community Center renovations. This revitalized a historic facility in downtown Tampa's Central Avenue District. It was funded by the Downtown Tampa CRA with a $2.6 million project, adding over 400 square feet to the original structure and introducing modern amenities to enhance the functionality and accessibility for the greater community. The center also honors Mason Kidd Fendel, a prominent Black owner and community activist, and serves as a stop on the Tampa Soul Walk, which celebrates the city's Black history. The judges were very impressed with the project's celebration of placemaking, cultural storytelling, and strong participatory planning.
Nice,
So
we got the
that's-
award.
Yes,
right
this
here.
is that award. I'm not going to attempt to hold them all because there's too many. So the second award is for an award of outstanding contribution to the Skills Center, which is a transformative 55,000 square foot facility located in the East Tampa community redevelopment area. It is designed to empower youth through sports-based education. The overall mission of the center is to create a place where essential skills are developed, positive relationships are grown, and solutions to some systematic challenges facing underserved youth are addressed. Within its first 5 years of opening, the center aims to create 180 jobs and impact over 3,500 youth, fostering long-term economic growth and community revitalization. That's another great project. And then last but not least was the highest award given out that evening, the Jan Abel Award of Outstanding Contribution in the Historic category, which went to the historic 7th Avenue bricking project. This project replaced aging asphalt with historically accurate bricks along 7th Avenue between 15th and 17th Streets, improving one of Tampa's iconic corridors. Approximately 80,000 bricks were used, and they were all historic bricks that were collected, cataloged, and stored by the city for decades. The judges just thought this was super cool that you invested in this way and took the care to ensure the authenticity of Ybor's historic streetscape was maintained. And so those are the 3 awards you all won. So congratulations.
Board Member Clendenin.
Yeah, I don't think I could stay silent and say reference the Union Station. It was Councilman Carlson's really strong advocacy for that particular issue, and I think if he's been beating that drum for as long as before I got on council, and I think we'd just be remiss if we didn't acknowledge his contribution and what he did for being such a strong advocate for across the board historical preservation, and specifically about Union Station.
Board Member Kaufman.
Yeah, and I think Board Member Maniscalco was the one that pushed the bricks, although not everybody agrees with it. It's essential to rebuilding the look and feel of Ybor, and then we all supported them. But one thing about Tampa Union Station, and just an important note for everybody, we talk about mentoring as being a really important thing. 25 years ago, Linda Salsena, former city council member, was and is a mentor, and she took me to Tampa Union Station for a meeting to try to save trees. And it was the first time I'd ever been in there. And so she showed me that. She showed me across the street the Jackson House. And the reason why I care about a lot of those things is because I had mentors who showed them to me. And so, I think it's important that we all remember our mentors and thank them. And it's up to us to pay it forward to try to inspire the next generations to do the same thing.
Congratulations to all the staff who worked so hard to make this happen. 3 big awards is really exciting, and it's nice to just enjoy your accomplishments. So thank you so much, Mr. Anita, for coming today and sharing these wonderful awards.
Thank you so much.
And all really cool projects.
Yeah, they really were. So thank you. So we have some chambers are a little bit more packed today. We have some special guests in the audience. We have USF students, and if you would like to just stand and quickly be recognized. We are happy to have you here today to see government in action, and best of luck for all future endeavors. We're happy to have you here. Okay, so Mr. Brackens, we're going to ask you to go ahead to read the rules for public comment participation.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the public are allowed a reasonable opportunity at the beginning of the CRA meeting to address any item on the agenda before the CRA takes official action on an item. However, a 3-minute time limit applies to all speakers providing public comment, unless such time frame is modified by a vote of the CRA board. Speakers and members of the public are also reminded that they are to refrain from disruptive behavior, including making vulgar or threatening remarks, or making or causing disruptive noises or sounds, or displaying signs or graphics. Speakers are also reminded to refrain from launching personal attacks. The chair will rule out of order any person who speaks without being recognized or attempts to address the CRA from outside the speaker area at the podium. Persons failing to comply with the CRA's rules may also be ruled out of order and, at the discretion of the chair, may be removed from the chambers for the remainder of that day's CRA meeting. Finally, CRA board members are reminded that they should refrain from engaging a speaker under public comment. The City Council rules, as revised June the 6th, 2024, are now in effect for the CRA board unless otherwise exempted or overridden by the CRA board bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do not have the pad anymore to sign in. So if you wish to speak, please stand up on the left side, and let's begin. Yes, I know. We are working on a new policy. So, Mr. Hearns, if you'd like to, I see you first. Come on up. Please remember to start with your name.
Good morning, Council. As representatives of the CRA Board, happy to be here. Good morning, Councilwoman Young. Great to see you. And we have some wonderful projects that I looked at the agenda, some things that you're going to be considering and voting on today. The one that I'm here to speak to is the Perry Harvey Park band shell, or amphitheater, if you will. And it was 18 years ago that this project was first discussed by the city of Tampa. And so patience does have its reward, because I recently saw some drawings of what the amphitheater might look like, thanks to Parks and Recreation Department. Brad Suter, who I worked with 18 years ago, this was one of the projects we talked about at that park. And so today it's getting close to becoming a reality. Councilwoman Gwendolyn Henderson also was very supportive of this project. Not just to have a band shell where we can have a stage. While that is very important, it saves people money. They want to have activities in Perry Harvey Park, as you know, the site of historic Central Avenue. But also it would give people an opportunity, small business owners who don't have a storefront, who can't afford a building, who can't afford to pay the rent, which seems to go up every other day. But they can come to the park for special activities, bring their wares, whatever it is that they have to sell, whether it be food or other items, and maybe get a start that will propel them to moving into a building and opening up a storefront and a small business. That was part of her dream. And so also, I'm affiliated with Tampa Bay History Center. We manage Tampa's first Black History Museum, 1213 Central Avenue. Perry Harvey Park is our front lawn. And so we're going to be very supportive of activities there when that amphitheater opens up. And then the other thing is, when I look at Centennial Park as a model, how vendors have come there for years. I think one Saturday out of the month, I'm not sure of the schedule right now. That's the kind of thing that should be happening at Perry Harvey Park. This is where most of our black history in Tampa began, in that neighborhood. So thank you. I've got 30 more seconds, okay. The other thing I want to mention is one of the projects that Councilwoman Henderson launched a year ago or earlier this year, and I believe there are plans to continue. And I would like to be a part of that, where she recognized HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. We want to support that also at Perry Harvey Park if we can. Thank you so much.
And could you just state your name for the record,
I'm
please?
sorry. Fred Hearns,
Thank you.
and I live in District 5. Thank you.
So much. Pastor Williams? Welcome.
Yes, my name is, excuse me, my name is Pastor William, located at 1112 East Scott Street. I'm no longer located there now because the people wanted me out their neighborhood. But I was doing a good job. And the guy that came over there by the name of William Petrusenko or something like that, he came with me and him, drawed up a contract. And he only did, he gave me a blank contract, but he kept a contract that he had changed everything on there but what he gave me. But you know what? I'm gonna just leave that in the hands of the Almighty God. He'll take care of it for me. And God said, be still and know that He's God. And He said He will repay. And so I'm depending on God to take care of everything for me. Because I got a letter here where people were stealing money out of my account. And they had stole $8,000 out of my account. And I don't understand why people would do something like that, but they do it. And you know what? We got to understand, how in the world would a bank, you having a credit card, would let somebody get away with something like that? Although they would have paid me the money back, but I need to find out exactly who did this so we could press some charges against. I bought a copy, you know. I'm dealing with people now only concerned about money and ain't concerned about people at all. But we have to understand, we try to do the best we can in order to try to defend ourselves. But we can't defend ourselves when we go down to a certain place, get an application. The first thing they want to know, what's your bank account number? What's your address? And then I don't know who going into my account, but they went into it deep. I want to get in touch with a lady here because she gave me some paper. Well, y'all don't run the thing. Give me a paper where I want to give her a copy of my paper because she's the only one seems to be concerned about me. Nobody else concerned about a crippled old man whatsoever. But I thank God He's concerned, and that's what we have to look at. I don't look at y'all as being mean people, unjust. I look at y'all as being nice people. You know who told me to tell y'all that? Gwen. Gwen said, tell them they're nice people.
Thank you, Pastor Williams.
I heard you. I heard. Give me time to get my stuff together.
Okay.
I'm a little slow, but God is still good to me.
Okay, next, and please don't forget to state your name.
Good morning. My name is Ken Stoltenberg. I reside at 1208 East Kennedy Boulevard, otherwise known as Grand Central at Kennedy. I'm here to speak in favor of item 15. It involves the construction of an additional 36-inch stormwater pipe along Channelside Drive. On September 4th, 2024, we had a major flooding event. Had nothing to do with any of the hurricanes we had that year. It was just a very heavy rain and the system got overwhelmed. Every building north of Kennedy in the Channel District was affected one way or the other and had some form of flooding. Property I'm involved in, Inscription Channel District, had major water damage, about $2 million. Only about $1 million was compensated by insurance. So I understand that this is going to double the amount of capacity that stormwater can get into the channel, and it's very much needed for numerous properties. And I would ask you all to support that item 15 today. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, you as well. Next.
Uhuru, Mentesnat. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili, and we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom, because for the last 825 years or 52 generations, the African nowhere on this planet Earth have seen any kind of freedom, independence, self-determination. None of those things we've seen, because we've been living under a certain kind of occupation that affects us adversely. And within this agenda, we see it. Within the CRA, we see it. $5.5 million one place, $5 million another place, $2.2 million another place. But that's playing with human existence. What this city council need to be discussing is free housing for poor and working class people. 100% free, sustainable housing for poor and working class people. We don't need to be discussing any Democratic or any Republican ideas. We need to be discussing socialist and communist ideas, ideas that work for the people internationally, ideas that works for the people internationally. This city council has never done anything. They talk about the CRA, but as a matter of fact, when the CRA started moving in the interest of what it's supposed to do for African people, or even for District 5, even for East Tampa, we've seen they did all kinds of things to block the aspirations of the CIA, what it's supposed to be doing. We see the CRA have too much money in certain instances, and they have to shift the money other places. It's something that's wrong about that. And you can live your entire lifetime. You can live your entire lifetime and realize at the end of your life you really didn't accomplish anything. At the end of your life, you didn't accomplish anything at all. And what you see is, in this city, all I've seen all my life, I've seen 70 years of African people begging for jobs, begging for food, begging for food stamps, begging for justice. Something's wrong with that picture. This CRA need to be discussing free housing for poor and working class people. Nothing more, nothing less. The other stuff is irrelevant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
God bless you, City Council. Pastor Alfred Johnson with the Faith Action Ministry Alliance, native here of Tampa, Florida, descendant of Johnny Johnson. My brothers are all community servants, from retired Brigadier General Johnson to retired Air Force. To my younger brother is the former retired Deputy Chief of the Tampa Police Department, Calvin Johnson, and I'm the preacher in the family. We worked in Grant Park now for over a decade, doing a bunch of work there. I lead an organization called the Faith Action Ministry Alliance. We have a private school in the Grant Park area. We provide free after-school, free summer program, free out-of-school. We also do a bunch of social work in the area, literally hundreds of homes. We have database in terms of assessing felt needs and then responding to them. We do a bunch of community work in terms of beautifications, cleanups. We've literally picked up over the last 4 years nearly 100 tons of garbage. That is not to the discredit of the city, by the way. They're doing a wonderful job. Code enforcement is out there. It's just that we're dealing with different social things right now. And then we also do a bunch of different events to boost the morale of the community. So we're out there. We're out there and we're hitting it. But one of our greatest assets are partners. So both the county as well as the city, police department, but also there's 70 different organizations that are members of the Alliance. But then we also deal with people like the Clonts. Item number 9, Clonts Properties, what we're coming to speak in favor of. These are legacy business owners that are looking to have an impact on the Grant Park area by establishing affordable housing. 12 apartment complexes, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's going to have a major impact on the Grant Park area. So I've been there for many years. I didn't just start when I led the Alliance. We were in Grant Park from the late 80s. And we were able to see the various changes that have taken place. When I was there earlier, a bunch of crime, high crime. When we moved in, the crime was still high. Investors came in, made it nice. The officers did their thing. The city did its thing. The churches did their thing. And then the Alliance did its thing. But this organization, Clonts, they own a storefront right there on MLK and 50th Street. They partner with the Alliance to make the community a better place. We meet with the neighbors once a month, apart from all the other activities, and we're able to hear from them as well. Affordable housing is needed. With our school, we actually lost a significant number of students this very year because their parents couldn't afford to live in the Grant Park area, if you can believe that. We also deal with a variety of legacy seniors who are having a difficulty not only affording their home, but affording repairs on their home. There's really some remarkable stuff taking place. The Clonts are partnering with us to make it happen. And again, we're calling on our partners here in the city of Tampa, help us to make a difference for our community members. Let's help the low income that are in our area, and it's going to have a long-lasting impact. God bless you all.
Thank you. Next. Please start with your name.
Good morning. I am Deborah Camillus, lead pastor in the church, one of the churches in Grant Park community. Between my dad and I, we had been there over 50 years. We've seen people come and people go. But we know that the Clonts, I'm here to also speak on their behalf, they have come to stay. And they are a great influence, and they have a vision for our community of Grant Park. You know, one of the things that they're all about is helping, just like Pastor Alfred just said, make our community a better place. You know, their storefront has added, they've done redesigning of their storefronts that are right there facing 50th Street. They are people that have a heart. They're developers not with a money sign in their eyes, but they're there to make a difference in our community. Affording housing would be a tremendous asset for Grant Park. The median cost, I just looked it up, was about $221,000 for a home and about $1,500 for the mortgage of that home. We've got people even in our church that are struggling because, and they have the assistance of our county, they have the assistance of our federal government, but they're still struggling because even when they get a price for their mortgage and everything like that, it goes up, it goes up, it goes up. Matter of fact, I looked up one of the lots in our community that's for sale right now. It's a little over 5,000 square feet. And it's going for $213,500. That's empty, nothing on it. Okay, but here we go with the Clonts. They're willing for their property and their lots to house this excellent affordable housing project. Their goal is to impact now, not just wait for the future. And they are there to bring the development that has so much potential for our community of Grant Park. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next. Please state your name.
Hello, my name is Veronica Nicholas, and I serve as the Neighborhood Liaison for Faith Action Ministry Alliance. You've already heard from our President and CEO, Pastor Johnson. I also am here in support of Clonts Property and their proposal for subsidies, developer subsidies for their affordable housing inside the Grant Park community. As the neighborhood liaison, I've had the opportunity, or I have the opportunity to speak with hundreds of neighbors inside of Grant Park, and the message and their sentiments are all the same. They want to bring affordable housing to Grant Park, and we believe that Clonts Property will do just that, and we're so excited about what they're proposing to do. In fact, we've worked with Clonts Property to have events inside the Grant Park community. Recently, we had a community barbecue just on this past Saturday, which they allowed us to use their space for it. Again, all of the people that I've spoken to, the elderly, at our community meetings, at our school, Grant Park Christian Academy, they're all saying the same thing. You know, we're in a very challenged time, and housing instability is real, and people are suffering. But we're excited about the promise of what they bring to our community, desperately needing inside the Grant Park community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please state your name.
Good morning, Council. My name is Trevor Rosine. Good morning, neighbors, staff. I hope you all are enjoying this beautiful weather. Among many of the agenda items that are incredibly worthy, I am here today specifically to speak on item 19 because pedestrian and traffic safety in Ybor is directly tied to the work of the CRA, and I believe they have to be partners in this ongoing conversation. I appreciate the chair for acknowledging the tremendous loss our community has just experienced. And we all know that one death is too many, and we have to work diligently to prevent additional deaths in this manner and manners like this. The event that we experienced in Ybor is not isolated. It is part of a broader traffic safety crisis across our city. We know which roads are most deadly because Tampa streets fall under a mix of city, council, and state control. It then becomes difficult to implement consistent safety solutions, and Tampa remains one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the country for pedestrians. The CRA can partner with us to do better. Other cities have shown what is possible. Hoboken, New Jersey, Helsinki have achieved consecutive years without a single traffic death. Their businesses did not close, their neighborhoods did not suffer, they simply prioritized safety, lowered speeds, and used smart traffic calming tools that protected life. For Ybor City, I am asking the council and the CRA to begin by hosting a well-publicized and accessible community input session focused on pedestrian safety and possible timed or pilot closures of 7th Ave. Residents, workers, business owners, and patrons all deserve to be a part of this conversation. Their lived experience should 100% guide these solutions. I'm not asking you to close 7th Ave today. I'm asking you to start a community-driven process. After gathering input, I urge you to consider a timed or pilot closure during high-risk hours so we can evaluate real-world safety impact, business impact, and pedestrian flow before making long-term decisions. We have studied this before, but times have absolutely changed. Ybor City is one of Tampa's most historic and important neighborhoods, and it deserves a well-thought-out plan rooted in safety, economic vitality, and community trust. And empowering the CAC and the community to help lead this work is absolutely the right first step. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Let's see, make sure that CCTV puts up our wolf vision this morning.
Awesome. Okay, I want to fix it before my iPad is dead. Good morning, my name is Ashley, and I'll be sharing Tampa's Black history. So I showed this last week, and when I brought it to a bunch of historians, they were saying they're talking about Angola. I said, well, what was happening here on the banks of Hillsborough River? And if you didn't know, Tampa's very expansive, right? So Angola was down here at the mouth of Tampa Bay. So all of this is Tampa Bay. But not much activity, I guess, with the city and when we do things with places down there like Sarasota that I know of anyway. So I'm going to share something at the end of this. Here's a story. King Ferdinand sold 11 million acres of land to Duke Algan, I think I spelled that wrong, and then he sold it to Robert Hackney, a third of that. Robert Hackney sends SS Seymour to that area to survey that area to go look at it. Hackney wanted to put some property. He had some property. He wanted to put a house on there on the property, and it ended up being where Fort Brooke is right now. Well, Convention Center is right now. So Hackley's surveyor Seymour starts at St. Augustine and he heads towards Tampa Bay. When he gets to a place called Abrahamtown, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. It's like It's Abrahamtown is where this star is right here. It's a Black Seminole community, and they're owned by Micanopy. They tell him politely to turn around. You can't go any further for political reasons. So he goes back to St. Augustine and sails around the coast of Florida and makes it back to the Bay of Tampa. All right, here's the book. Here's a QR code if you want to read it for yourself, page 100 through 103. All right, here's just the story that I just explained. Him telling him they politely refused to let me go any further for political reasons, which it is not necessary to state. So he turns around and goes back to St. Augustine and sails around. Then, as you can see, he says, this last information I received from an Indian Negro who lived 5 years in that country. This is 1822, so he must have came there around 1818. And there's a little bit more information down here, but I'm not going to go over that. I bring up all this to say, here is the map. This is the area that Hackley owned. This is the area that the surveyor went into. And he found that Indian Negro here on the banks of Hillsborough River, sorry. I wanted to share about an event that takes place every year, the Back to Angola Festival. So it's going to be here March 7th through 8th, 2026 over in Sarasota. You can check it out. It is free. And I'm a photographer. If you need any pictures, please hit me up. I have holiday sessions going on right now. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. Next.
Good morning, City Council, and I want to welcome...
Okay, wait just a moment. We're going to let everybody settle down. Great. Thank you so much.
Good morning, City Council, and welcome, City Council Lady Ms. Young. I'm Chloe Coney, a woman that wears many hats. I think most of you know I was the founder of CDC and the first CEO. I'm here to speak on behalf of the East Tampa Heritage Heights. In 1992, we took on Lake Avenue and 29th Street. It was nicknamed Dust Bowl because nothing was there. We found nothing but drugs on the street, crime, trash everywhere. And we marched and we cleaned for 3 years. And after we got through marching and cleaning, we went back and rebuilt. But let me start over again and say, being raised here in Tampa, I remember 29th Street being our historic Black community. I remember parades where you had FAMU and Bethune and high school and the floats. I remember some of the stores there and the Lily White Hospital and the restaurants there. So it was like our Central Avenue for East Tampa. But again, it fell into disinvestment. But CDC went ahead and revitalized the laundromat there. We tore down the old Rabbit Foot bar that was closed 20 years. So many people have been killed there. But we rebuilt the youth center, the August Spofford Youth Center, and we've sent hundreds of kids off to college and helped them to graduate from high school. We built with a front porch money, the open air. So we had an investment into Lake and 29th Street. And I like to say, many of you know that I'm talking 33 years ago. I'm 75 now. It's time for a new investment. I'm proud of my son, Ernest Coney Jr. and his staff. They're taking up the mantle. They bought the Lily White Hospital. They bought that old dilapidated Leon's package store that had prostitution and drugs and everything else there for 40 years. They bought the store there. They bought other properties. So CDC has an investment again into Lake and 29th Street. And I have a desire that Lake and 29th Street look like West Tampa. You're putting new homes, new commercial there, but nothing is happening on 22nd and 29th Street. So I want to thank you if you vote for that $5 million CRA dollars. I get emotional because getting older, you want to see it. I had a dream, I had a vision. 33 years I've been waiting for it to come a reality. So I'm begging you, please, let's make that place a place that we will love, we will want to live there, we want to work there, and we want to own a business. So CDC has made a commitment. They have gotten the job done. They will put new homes there. They will put new apartments, and they will put new commercial there. So God bless you, and let's get the job done now. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Next.
Good morning, council and visitors.
Name?
My name is Shirley Gaddis Brookins. I'm here on behalf of Sherman Jones, the Gaddis family, and the safety of City of Tampa residents and people who want to go enjoy themselves down in Ybor City. My cousin was one of the ones that was killed on Saturday morning. I'm asking that you all implement a plan for us to meet at least monthly on the safety of different areas around the city to go and enjoy yourself. There was a very large space where Sherman was killed that was kind of open, and I would like if we can get better communication between the helicopter and the law enforcement officials on the ground, because I appreciate TPD radioing and, you know, telling FHP to back off, but if TPD could have radioed officers that were already down in Ybor City to say, hey, we got a guy, looks like he's coming your way, you know, put some barracks up. You know, can you pull your cruiser from off of this street and put it onto this street? If you all could please just, you know, I'm sorry. Put cruisers and block off. There was a time that no one was able to park on 7th Avenue, period. If you all could just put up barricades and cruisers so that there is no way that people can just fly through the way that they do and hurt other people and their family members. It's not fair. I wanted to show you this picture. God is so good. There was a random guy taking pictures of people around Ybor City. That's Sherman, 11 minutes before he lost his life. It was on social media. My daughter found it, but Sherman is standing next to a guy. We can't see him. He's, they're communicating. That guy also lost his life a little bit over, okay, where the motorcycles are in the car. So I believe there's a car in front of the red light, but there's like a smooth part of the pavement, not the curb, to where anybody can kind of like drive up in there. Had a cruiser and some barricades been at 15th and 7th Avenue, I might not be here this morning having to ask you for better safety in the Ybor City community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. I'm the son of Alfred Johnson, previous speaker, and I'm from Tampa, born and raised, just like my fathers. And I work for family, engaging the Grant Park community. I serve the children in the community. I do summer camps, after-school programs. I also serve the homeless and homeless outreaches. I'm here in support of item number 9, Cynthia Clonts and her family. They have participated in many and partnered with many of the events that engage the community. I resonated with the Clonts, his son, there's a son named Parker of the Clonts family, and he talked about his story and about how his father was an advocate for the community, Grant Park community, and served the community during his lifetime, and his late father. And I resonated with a lot of that because my dad is also a servant to the community. So I think they have good means on what their cause, and yeah, I'm in support of them. Affordable housing also is an item that many of the parents and the members of the community are always speaking that they need. So that's an important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please start with your name.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Nunez. I am also with Faith Action Ministry Alliance. I'm the Director of Development. I'm also the Sports Program Coordinator for the community. What I'm here today is in favor of line item number 9, as most of us are. I want to just start by saying I'm not a Grant Park resident. I'm not even a resident of Hillsborough County. I travel 1 hour, over an hour, every single day from Zephyr Hills, not because I want to, but because I believe in a community that I've fallen in love with. Now, why do I tell you that? Because when I look at the Clonts family, I see that same love times 10, maybe times 20. They're legacy business owners. They've been in that business. They've been in that area now for over 2 decades. Easily could have moved their business, their property, sold it, moved away, forgot about Grant Park, found somewhere more profitable, somewhere more even safe. But here they are, 25 plus years later. What are they trying to do? Not trying to line their pockets. What they're trying to do is do something better for the community. I work in the community daily. Like I said, I travel far every single day. I believe in that community, just like the Clonts do. Now, why am I in favor of it? I talk to parents, I talk to community members. This is something that they desperately need. We can go through the numbers, most of us have already, but I truly believe that these are good people looking to do a good thing. I do believe that they're looking out for the people of Grant Park, who for many years have been left behind. So I don't want to take much more of your time. I yield the rest of my time, and I just want to say that I am in favor of the Affordable Housing Act that they're looking to put together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If everyone could take a moment and silence their cell phones, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Good morning, City Council, people in the chamber. My name is Daryl Heitch. I had a whole speech prepared to state Miss Coney brought back to memory a song that was in the community that says, emotions make you cry sometime. With that being said, the other day I had the privilege of being in a meeting, and we were discussing various things that was taking place within the city of Tampa and how these various things are affecting the black community. When I left out of that meeting, a couple days later, I was a little troubled. I was troubled because I came to realize, and I said to a few colleagues, I said, when in history or in modern society has the persons who have been wronged had to figure out how to solve the problem themselves from being wronged? So, for example, if I break into your house and I steal from you in your house and I pilfered from you and I hurt, harm, and I cause pain upon you in your house, it's not normal for you to go to jail and pay for that penalty, or it's not right for you to try to figure out how you can right that wrong. And that's what we found ourselves doing the other day. We found ourselves in a room trying to figure out how can we present to city council or present to the power players of the city of Tampa how we can correct the wrongs. I thought that was very disenchanting, and as well, it was very frustrating. And then I came to realize a few things. That you all that sit on the diocese have power, But those who have exact power and true power are the families such as the Vinnick family, the Glazer family, Troy Taylor, Daryl Shaw, Paul Tosh, Richard Gonsmart, Gina Curry, and all these powerful men and women in the city of Tampa. See, what ends up happening is we tend to think that the problems of the black community is not everyone else's problem. But I appeal to these families to partner with you, to partner with me, to partner with my colleagues, because week after week we come down here and we craft our 3 minutes like that of an order. We try to make sure that we say what needs to be said in that quick 3 minutes, and then we hear the buzzer. And then we have to speed up what we're trying to deliver. But we're here today to tell you, you know what? I need those families to listen to what we're saying. I need those families to understand that if we hurt, they hurt. You just bore witness to the hurt that black families have because of some of those families that lost their lives this week. Some of the people that was inside the facility. We all hurt when our black families and our black community is not hurting, is not being helped. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Please start with your name.
Good morning. Grand rising to all. City Council members. My given name is Alfred T. Piles. I live in my family home, the Piles family, at 1509 East 5th Avenue, Ybor City. We've been there for approximately 85 years. I stand before you in protest, a public act of objection. I object to the fact that City of Tampa have not seen it fit to be proactive concerning security. Of all places, Ybor City. I don't think the city council members truly understand the significance of security. And I'm speaking primarily that I was vandalized. On Saturday evening past, November 8th, 2025, my newly acquired 2022 Nissan Armada was vandalized, presumably from a thrown object believed to be a liquor bottle or a wine bottle delivered from the parking garage. No cameras exist other than at the entrance and exit points. That information was extended by the City of Tampa Parking Division Security Section. I would definitely prosecute the assailant or assailants if able to identify. City of Tampa Parking Security personnel state they understand my unfortunate situation, but no cameras exist in the stairwells where they believe crime is more likely to occur. Also, there exist no cameras recording within the body of the garage that possibly would have recorded behaviors from people bringing confusion and inappropriate behaviors to Ybor City daily. I live in Ybor City. I've seen the stupidity of people.
Thank you so much.
My time is up?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay.
3 minutes goes fast.
Well, please consider the gravity of the situation and place some cameras in the garage.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Ernest Coney Jr.
Good
Councilwoman, it's good to see you. To the family of Sherman Jones, we definitely have prayers with you. He went through our training program a couple of years ago, and he was a bright star. And to see that kind of devastation for the families and what that meant for Tampa as well, anything that we can do to help create safety in our areas, please think about it. I'm here to talk about item number 10, Heritage Heights. Oftentimes I talk about how do we create communities of promise. Of course, I was doing the drug marches. I was in high school and early in my college career with my mother. That's all I've ever known Lake and 29th Street to be, was that devastation. But as I did the history and looked back at it, the hospital was there, so many people were born in that area. Allison Hewitt's father, John Hewitt, had a dental office there. Brookins had a physician's office. So you can imagine if you have a hospital, all the physician networks around. And then I learned about the Chitlin Circuit and all of the different musicians who used to come to that area. They go to Central Avenue and then they come over to East Tampa on Lake and 29th Street. So there is such a rich history of housing. But then something happened in the 80s and the 90s, and we all know what happened, the drugs and people just beginning to leave the area. We have to create a new vision and have investment for East Tampa. Heritage Heights is a beginning step, phase 1, so we definitely ask for your support. And then as we begin to think about the economic tools, one of the things we have to think about, we look at downtown and how it grew, Channelside and how it grew, Ybor City and how it grew through the CRA. We're able to bond money. We're able to do all these amazing things and tools. And then when it's time for places like East Tampa to grow neighborhood districts, all those things get stripped away. We have to think about how we can use economic tools. And Darryl talked about how do we get private sector to come in and help. Whatever it takes, we need to come in unison and think about how do we bring investment into East Tampa. I oftentimes ask the question, what's the difference between Baghdad and Dubai? Investment and a vision. East Tampa, we have the vision, but we need your help with the investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. Good morning, Councilwoman. My name is Jason Rickmans. I live in VM Ybor. I too have a situation where there's a lot of illegal dumping in that area. I'm having to spend my own money and time to go to Hannah Street to pay to have trash removed. I got a code enforcement violation. And I'm working with a detective to try to crack down on it or get to the bottom of it. I think we need cameras. So there's a lot behind my property. It belongs to the city of Tampa, but people dump stuff there all the time, and I'm not sure what to do about it. Second thing is I have a project that I'm working on. I submitted to the CRA, and it's a mixed-use project, and part of it is some commercial frontage, and I was told because some of that would be new construction, it would not be covered, and I'm hearing that there is a property in East Tampa that is going to be new construction, commercial frontage that is going to be covered by the CRA. So I just wanted to come and speak about that. That's all. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Council. Steve McElhaney.
Good morning.
I'm here first in support of item number 6, which is the changes in the commercial grant program. As some of you know, I work very closely with the Longshoremen's Union downtown, and this would be a great benefit to them. The history of that particular location is that it was the first black union building in the whole Tampa Bay area. It is an iconic location socially and culturally for organization, civil rights movement, and a number of other things. So it deserves their support, and I'll be working with staff as soon as this program is implemented to assist them with some renovations that's badly needed at their facility. The second item, I sent you an email regarding code enforcement and what happens in the disparity, particularly in the CRA areas, where individuals are burdened by excessive fines in the middle of their attempt to resolve issues, whatever the issue is. Those fines should be suspended while you're working on obtaining permits. They have no control over the scheduling of a variance or how long it takes to get to a Barrio Latino or the Variance Review Board or a rezoning. And so in the meantime, you have fines running from two different sides. You have the building code enforcement assessment, and then you also have the traditional code, the code enforcement assessment. So at the end of the day, you could have tens of thousands of dollars in fines waiting while you get through the process of permitting and a variance or an administrative design exception. And I would urge the council, not necessarily a CRA, but as you sitting as a city council, do not adopt the second reading of the code enforcement provision, the code that came to you last week, until you've had a workshop where you can explain and discuss the implications of what the changes are. Obviously, you made motions that you were going to reinstate the magistrates, and according to the code, the magistrates won't be paid, but the attorneys that they've hired through their contract will be paid. So there are a number of issues that need to be looked at, and I'd appreciate it if you would take some time, examine that, and do not adopt the second reading of that code that's coming before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, Council. My name is Tom DeGeorge. I am the owner of Crowbar in Ybor. We're a well-known independent live music venue established in 2006. I am the president of our Ybor Merchants Association, a chair of our Ybor CAC. I'm an Ybor homeowner, and I'm also the Southeast president for the National Independent Association, where one of the things I've done is volunteer my 30 years of experience in safety and security situations to our members. I've done it locally too over the years when needed or asked with the Safe and Sound program, as well as the venue safety plan that I worked on with then Captain Brett Owen. I've had education, training, and experience in safety procedures for large events, the Olympics in 1996, arenas, stadiums, parades, and most recently the last 2 years for an outdoor multi-stage festival in downtown Wichita, Kansas, that hosts thousands of people. For the last 25 years, I've spent the majority of my evenings in Ybor City. Our community is hurting right now. What happened was a terrible tragedy, and it was one that should have been preventable. But I've seen time and time again when these things happen and solutions get put out in place based on emotion. And I love our community very much, and I want to make sure that whatever we do not only solves the problem, but does not lead to other safety concerns. I'm happy to be a resource to come up with answers. I have many thoughts on how we can be safer that I won't get into right now. But I do think that while we have these conversations, we first start with looking towards the chase itself and enforcement to figure out, and not to point fingers, but to figure out what led up to this tragedy in the first place. Was policy followed? Was it not? And what needs to be changed to make sure it doesn't happen again? However things go forward, like I said, I'll be a resource to try to keep our community safe, and I appreciate your all time.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Council. My name is Bishop Michelle B. Patty. I was born and raised here in the city of Tampa. I stand before you. This is a bittersweet moment for me. It's bitter because our late Councilwoman, Gwendolyn Gwen Henderson, is not here to see how great works come to fruition. I would like to thank Parks and Recreation, the staff, for what all they're doing to bring forth the Perry Harvey Senior Park with the Amphitheater and also the band shell. I would like to also point out there was something else that she was working on at her untimely death, and that was to make sure that the Yellow Jackets stay whole. I know you all have moved forward on that, and I like to make sure that that stay moving towards fruition. Also, we know that she was instrumental in making sure that African-American caterers over at the Julia Lane, that they are able to get work. But one of her desires was to make sure that African-Americans are able to rent the facility at a reasonable price. So I hope that does not get overlooked. Watching history, and when you get past 70, that's what we say, we watch history. Growing up in Hyde Park and going along Central Avenue, the Cozy Corner, the theaters and all, those were some good times and happy times. It was times when black folks actually loved on each other and respected one another. So with this being done at the Perry Harvey Park, I feel hopeful that it's going to unite and bring not just the seniors but our young people together, and that it also be feasible that you can rent out the park. And that has been a hinder to a lot of things that we cannot use here in the city of Tampa, is the cost of it. So as we look forward to those things, I know there's a lot that is going on here in the city of Tampa. I also like to wish condolence to those that was killed and the wolves that was hurt in the Ybor City tragedy. How do we avoid it? What do we do? It's going to take time, no just jumping, snapping to do things, because one thing might cause a reaction to cause other problems. So I think people need to sit down and try to see what they can work out and be beneficial to all that's in that area. And it's not just Ybor City, we're talking about the whole city of Tampa. And whenever I hear anything about affordable housing, I'm 1,000% in with that. So whatever you can do to facilitate, to make sure that there is housing, and we see we are cold, a lot of things going on. We need to make sure that our vulnerable, the least, have a place to stay. That is due, that we have shelter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Allison Hewitt, resident and business owner in East Tampa. This has got to be one of the most frustrating agendas I've ever had to review. So item number 5, we have the issue I have there is where in the report is the information provided for the documentation from the staff of what type of small businesses they spoke to in East Tampa. Item number 6, the commercial grant policy outreach. Where is the report that is actually about what the community said at this meeting? We cannot trust the staff reports because the only thing they said is that we provided information, answered questions. I would ask Councilwoman Hurtak, thank you for attending, to make sure she shares the actual concerns and frustrations that came out of that meeting, because it's not in the written report shared with the other members. Item number 9, I support this project. We need this project, but we need is fair treatment of the grant policies across the board. And so I would ask on item number 10, when did that application get submitted? And how long did it take for that application to get submitted between number 9? There is not a fair and equitable treatment of who people turn in their grant applications to the office. Item number 12, is this a special project request or a funding request? You know, so if you go to Domain Homes and you ask the Domain Homes to develop their land, why aren't you going to actual property owners and asking them, how do we help you develop the land? Is it because you're a white developer who has friends and relationships? But where are we helping the people who actually own the property, as it says in the CRP for East Tampa? Item number 13, please do not approve the operational agreement. As I have stated before, it gives absolutely no authority to you to actually govern the staff. That operating agreement is completely permissive. It says they may assist, they may assist. The only thing that is directional in that CRP is that they must follow the CRP. Anything else is if you look in the reports that they have here for the projects, they have taken out when the CRA approved it, and most of them, and so you have things that I have submitted to you that you have owned CRA land for 15, 13, 12 years. Last RFP is 6 years, but you can't make them do anything. You can ask them over and over again, but until they are ready to make sure that you have it, then you won't have it. Then we have the last one is we have pre-development grant. Now, community has been told that that's not ready, but you have someone here now who said they have completed pre-development 1 and 2. when the community has been told that we do not have the list ready and approved yet to be able to move forward. But we have them have pre-development. So real quick on the pictures, your grant says that you can't do new constructions. If you see on the pictures, this is the, and again, want this project. But this is the new construction that they're asking for a waiver to make sure that you are actually paying for rehab for this. And the pre-development paid for knowing that they were knocking down. So this is not pre-existing. You knock down the building. And everyone else who has asked for that, they have told no, and they're told no before they even get to you. Please be fair and equitable in East Tampa dollars.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Kimberly Simon. I've been up here a couple times speaking with you. I apologize because normally I have something written and prepared. Today I'm just kind of speaking freely. I want to speak regarding the commercial grants. Essentially, I spoke with the attorney Cliff Shepard, who's advising you on this matter. He was very kind to give me his time. Normally, a lot of attorneys like billable hours. He spoke with me at length for about 30 minutes regarding the Florida statutes. And upon the conclusion of this discussion that we had, he admitted that there are portions of commercial builds that can be funded within the statute, such as the foundation, street signs, pretty much the shell of up to the shell of the building can be funded. Now, I did come up with a list and a memo drafted for him to review to give to you, but he stated that due to client-attorney privilege, he couldn't review that you would have to send him something like that to review, which I understand. So it is not correct that the CRA cannot fund commercial or mixed use, which is really, what I'm working on, if you recall my previous comments. Developments. You can't 100% fund these developments within the statute, but you can fund a significant portion, which would assist significantly in making them feasible to be brought into these communities that are in desperate need of these types of developments. Residential grants. There's a significant difference between a large build and a small build. A lot of people during the previous meeting stood up and they said, oh my God, these subsidies are huge. Why are you giving these out? And they don't understand the subsidies, and they don't understand also how capital stacks and developments work. And when you have a very large development, they are often eligible for up to 70% subsidy. And when you see a small subsidy, that's meant to be part of a capital stack. So that's meant to be, you get this, and now you've got 70 to 80% funded, which in a lot of situations is what makes it feasible in the first place. And I definitely feel like there's a disconnect with the people in understanding capital stacks, but on a larger scale picture, there's a disconnect with understanding why large developments do not need CRA dollars versus smaller developments. So I just wanted to point that out because large developments would need CRA dollars if they applied for state funding and were denied. So that should probably be a requirement for large developments. Say you applied for state funding, it is a competitive process, maybe they didn't receive it. The next year, you're eligible to apply for CRA funding because they do not need it. Pro forma should be a part of the application process. You will have no idea if a development is feasible if there's no pro forma.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning, Connie Burton. First, I would just like to say that probably we should read the Florida statute as to why CRAs exist and the full intent of how it's supposed to improve the quality of life, not just in a commercial sense, but also to lift the people. You have a difficult task this morning because I'm well aware that if you approve this one and don't approve that one, and it's just all combined with people saying they need studio apartments for people that's engaged in the arts. Then the mayor wants $5 million because they want to beautify Curtis Sixon. Then we got a ton of nonprofits that just love poor people. But in this 20-page agenda items, that the very needs of the people of East Tampa in particular, that when we say that we need small development, or we need funding for rehab of housing, or we need to rewrite some of the policies that makes it almost impossible for homeowners that live in East Tampa in particular to get rehab dollars because the attachment of the liens that's placed with those dollars. So how you gonna cut this up and split this up this morning when we now have nonprofits that has the ability, probably don't have the ability to go out to banks and seek their dollars, but now they're at the well of where poor people in poor communities are supposed to be sustained. And then at the end of the day, it's all then deemed affordable. But what we see happening is that as properties and people are coming into the community is further being gentrified. The people that once lived there, guess what? They don't live there no more because they can't afford this new affordability. Domain Homes is able to come and say they're gonna build affordable units when they got properties right now inside of our communities, that houses that they built for well over $250,000, $700,000, right here, 1 block from the Good Samaritan Hotel. They can't even sell those properties. So now what are these properties gonna look like? And then when we see waivers of the powerful and affluent black folks are able to walk through these chambers to get in somebody's ear, and then they could get a waiver, but some developers inside of our communities that want to do the same thing, they can't get a damn dollar. History is recorded, all of this, and I don't know where any of you all are going with your political futures after this, but we shall be watching. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone else who wishes to speak in public comment here in chambers, please make sure you are standing up today. If not, this will be our last in public. We have 2 online.
Good morning, Keela McCaskill.
Do you want to wait, Ms. McCaskill, till we have these?
Oh, I will. So don't start the time.
Do we have enough for the clerk? Okay. Oh, no, I don't think we do. Okay.
You're short. I'll give this one.
To the clerk? Okay.
Great. To you all.
Thank
All
you.
right. So, good morning, Keela McCaskill. You know, I'm thankful to have accomplished some pretty amazing things for a person that comes from where I come from, as it relates to small businesses, as it relates to real estate transactions, and really placing people in some great spaces. But when I entered the development arena, I was stumped when it comes to the process, because I've seen a lot. I've done a lot of things as it relates to real estate, banking, lending, the whole 9. But when I got to this piece, I was stumped when it comes to this process. So today, I'm coming because I want to ask for your help. I want help to understand how I can get some of these exceptions that I've seen when you went above and beyond to give a building that will have and serve alcohol, regardless of what the rules said, regardless of the law. Damn the policy, nobody followed that. You gave them $5 million on an exception. I want to know how, in spite of the recommended number for one project, the staff said $1 amount and you did backflips to give them even more. I want to know how we can get a person that will come in, receive information on the exterior grant, get that, come in 2025, sit in a meeting, learn about the grants that's available, and they fast track all the way to the front of the line to where you're making decisions on it today. I want to know how we can get pre-development. Many people have said, well, Keela, why hasn't the project started on Nebraska, the main thoroughfare of East Tampa, in your CRP from 2004, and nothing has happened, and we are waiting on pre-development. This staff told me pre-development's not available. Waiting on a list of CCNAs. When I'm looking at a memo for you today, where this applicant has completed version 1 and 2 of pre-development. Hence, I'm told I'm waiting on an application. I had my staff that I pay work on Urban Reworks project. And I know that they submitted a process for Total Image Beauty Salon. This packet is what you approved initially for Total Image, and it was unprofessional. It was ridiculous. This little measly packet is what got this woman approved. She is in hardship because she spent the money and did exactly what you said she can do, yet she's paid taxes in this district for over 50 years. I submit this. This is what she was initially approved upon after she worked with your staff for 2 years. And she couldn't get anywhere. No pre-development, no grant, no nothing. It stopped. Wouldn't approve it for nothing. I am submitting another one along Nebraska. And this is what I'm submitting to them. I want to know how we can receive pre-development 1, pre-development 2 to begin adaptive reuse on Nebraska, which is mixed use. We are helping you with your aggressive goal of 10,000 units. I have projects along Nebraska, along 34th, along Osborne, next to your 40 or maybe $80 million project. Affordable housing for seniors, mixed use on Osborne, Nebraska, the entire street. My owner owns it all, and you can't do anything on that street without her. You need to come see me, but I want some of these exceptions. Help me walk through the exceptions that these people receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 online registered speakers. Michael Randolph, are you available?
My name is Michael Randolph. I'm with the West Tampa CDC. Before I get started, I want to introduce 2 new terms. The first term is called degentrification. Degentrification is the opposite of gentrification. The other term is regentrification, which is the ongoing development producing added gentrification. Today, CRA investment drives revitalization. But without safeguards, they risk displacing the residents they are meant to serve. The crisis. Based on predictive artificial intelligence, it shows that West Tampa is under pressure. Base case projection estimate 14 to 70% of displacement within the next 3 years. Worst case scenario, driven by speculation and weak protection, exceeds 30%. These trends fuel regentrification, destabilize neighborhoods, and erode cultural continuity. Proven solutions. Around the country, New York, Detroit, Buffalo, Minnesota, Phoenix, and the Twin Cities are using risk-mapped vulnerability typology and coalition to guide investment. The lesson is clear. Data plus policy equals protection. Tampa can learn from these models and integrate anti-displacement safeguards into CRA evaluation. Our response. Next week, we will unveil the West Tampa Anti-Displacement Strategy, a public-private partnership backed by the Community Benefit Agreement. Our Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Creation Center is powered by 70% artificial intelligence staff. Integration will transform underserved communities. We teach artificial intelligence skills to 10 years old and up. We will help elders with limited education gain multiple skills. We will create a pathway to high-paying jobs without preserving the neighborhood. The choice is clear. We can stand by at the crossroads and continue as business as usual and watch the community disappear. I do want to give a shout out to Curry Coney, because if it wasn't for you, the CDC wouldn't be the CDC. You gave the first money for the CDC to get started. When we shine, you shine. It was your investment that created the West Tampa CDC, and thank you. And yeah, you do shine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. The next online speaker is Fran Tate. Fran Tate. Ms. Tate, they say you're muted.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Gotcha. Just state your name, please. You have 3 minutes.
I am Fran Tate, a resident of East Tampa, District 5. I am the founder of the Jackson Heights Neighborhood Association and Community Safety Watch Group, former chair of the East Tampa CRA Community Advisory Committee, and now presently a board member. First of all, I'd like to express my condolences for the tragedy, once again, in Ybor. My suggestion is permanent barriers. Secondly, I'd like to say congratulations to our Councilwoman, Nia Young. We desperately need all of your help, all points north. Ybor, Jackson Heights, and all points north. We need your help. I'd like to speak on item number 9, the Clonts project. They've come before us, the CAC Board Advisory Committee, and we want you all to desperately take our advice seriously. They're asking, and we have approved $2.5 million for their project. I've spoken with them personally. I've asked them to partner with the FAMA, which I am personally connected with FAMA. I'm a partner there. And they said they would. So I'm asking that you please grant them the funds that they're asking, because the advisory committee, we're just volunteers. We understand the mission. We understand the work now. I've been on that advisory committee about 4 years now. I understand it. The budget, the funding, the different projects. So I'm asking you personally to please fund that project. Item number 10, I support item number 10. Irregardless of what people think about the Conies, Chloe is a mentor of mine from years way back. I respect her. I don't always necessarily agree with her, but I've had a chance to sit down and listen to all of the project. They've come before us. They've asked for $5 million. The advisory committee have voted on the $5 million. I don't know anything about the back doors, the front doors, but I am aware of stories. I'm here today just to support item number 9 and item number 10. Thank you so very much for listening to me. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm out here, of course, working in my community.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Tate. We appreciate you. Okay,
Have a blessed day, all of you.
You as well. Okay, we are settling in. We are starting with number 16 today. And number 16 is CRA 25-18652, a special project grant agreement between the Community Redevelopment Agency and the Firefighters Museum.
Good morning, board members. Dee Reed, Economic Development Coordinator. We have a special projects request for the Tampa Museum, and they're located at 720 East Zack Street. We have Mr. Wade that is going to present. He's going to present his request, and then I'll come back and present staff and the CAC's recommendation.
Excellent, thank you. Good morning.
And a good morning, everybody. Bill Wade, representing the Tampa Firefighters Museum this morning. Thank you for having me here. The PowerPoint that I believe you have in front of you, I will briefly. Oh, look at that up there. Do I get to move it forward? Or
Yeah,
should be a clicker somewhere?
Someone give him the clicker.
To my right. Oh, look at that. Okay. Wow. You guys are fancy. Okay. You're familiar with the building, but what I started this off with is, and come on, that's a button. There we go. We're going to try another button. Aha.
Oh, might be
Much
the
better.
other direction.
Would you assist me? Thank you. Okay. There.
You gotta click right here.
Right there. Right. Too many buttons. What you may not be familiar with is what the building looked like about 30 years ago. It was heading for the wrecking ball. The outside and the inside had been facing decades of neglect because basically it was going to be plowed down and turned into a parking lot. This is where it was. This is where it is today. Once again, most of you have been there. You've seen the activities we have there, the community groups that come through, the school groups that come through. How have we gotten there? What is our current support? We have over 450 active and retired firefighters who pay us for a membership fee. That helps pay the routine bills, the power bills, the electrical bills, everything, the internet, all of those things. We have our golf tournament. We have our Cinco de Dodgeball, which I think a couple of you have shown up at. We've got our museum store and, of course, philanthropy and other grant applications. That keeps the lights on. That keeps us moving forward. Over the past decade or so, we have come out of pocket through these fundraising efforts for many major projects, including tending for termites, redoing the second floor, painting the outside, air conditioning upgrades, interior paint, just a whole host of items. About a year ago, Mr. Vieira suggested that we apply for one of these grants to help do some outside work. We didn't know how. We worked through the process over the past year, and we come before you now because, as it says in the CRP process, we are looking to preserve, protect, and enhance the downtown's historical architectural heritage and the historical resources. The nice thing about our fire museum is you don't have to enter it to appreciate the history. The building itself is part of the history, and that's what we're coming before you today to help us with. We have on the outside of this building 41 wood frame windows that were installed the better part of 25, 30 years ago. We have been maintaining them as best we can, but now we're looking to hire a professional in the business who will come in and help restore them to give them another 20 or 30 years. Also, this door here in the front, the transom door, also needs some work, as do the wood doors, the apparatus doors. So all of the work that is being asked for involves outside the structure, the wood windows, the wood doors on the outside, 41 historic windows, the hardware that goes with those, and also trying to do some reinforcing of those items for storms and weather and items along that way. We're doing this to preserve this landmark, to have it there for not only current but future use. In the request that we presented before the CRA, we asked for $151,827 to do the work that we're looking for. The committee has been able to authorize us the maximum that they're allowed, which was $91,096. I'm standing before you today to ask you to consider funding the whole $151,000 project so that when we can move forward on this project, get the windows done, get the doors done, and preserve the building into the next several decades.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, thank you for your dedication to this important structure. I know it's a passion of yours, and thank you for your service and to the firefighters who support it. I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but the firefighters also use this as a meeting place and gathering space for themselves. So it's an important kind of hallowed ground for firefighters as well, and we always want to support them. I just had one question. You mentioned 95 or 96. Where did the renovation funding come from back then?
The original renovation funding a lot came from the state of Florida, some came from the county and the city. It was a lot of fundraising. For those who've been around a while, Dr. Judy Brueggemann was our lead person on that and helped us get a lot of those grants. Tallahassee back in those days was much more generous with historic preservation than they have been recently. So we are looking once again towards some local funding to try to help us get us through.
Do you remember what
We have applied for some state grants as well.
Sorry, do you remember what the total renovation costs were back then?
Although I'm only throwing out round numbers, between not only renovating the building, but also adding on that entryway building that you're familiar with, we spent well over $3 million.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for everything, and if Judy Bergman is watching, hello to her, and thank you to her for introducing me to you a long time ago.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Board Member Clendenin.
Yeah, I absolutely support what we're trying to do here, but I'm curious, what's the condition of the building? Are we going to need to be looking at this for future exterior reinforcement? Because it's been a while since it was renovated, and it's a 100-year-old building. And we need to preserve this establishment. So.
Thank you. We recently, the museum itself spent over $100,000 doing the roof work.
Right.
And that helped seal the building in once again. This work that we're asking you for, although I don't have an exact projection for how long it will last, this work needs to be done. We've basically been doing puttying and paint to preserve the windows. With this grant, we're going to hire somebody, a historical architectural contractor who will come in, preserve the windows correctly, preserve the doors correctly, and give us many years. Will we be back again to have to do this? Yes, these are wood windows, wood doors. If you live in an older house in this community, you know it's a constant maintenance issue.
I meant more like comprehensive. Have you done like, if you had a structural engineer recent report, if you're looking at the building to see what else we need to do to make sure this building stays here for another 100 years?
I am not aware. No, we have not. Short answer.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Board Member Maniscalco.
I just want to thank you for your thousands of hours of volunteer work there at the museum, because you keep it alive, you and your team. I've never seen the photos from 1995, and you see the condition, $3 million, give or take, but any historic structure. And with the humid climate that we have, if you don't have those windows, everything that you're asking for today, I mean, it's just going to deteriorate the interior and whatnot. But it's a beautiful structure. I know it's station number 1, the original station number 1, correct?
Correct.
Is it the oldest? No, it's not the oldest in the city, because you have Palmetto Beach is even older and others, but it's up there.
Correct. Well, actually, I believe those buildings were 1914. This is 1911. This is the last Tampa fire station built with horse-drawn apparatus in mind.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Anything else? Thank you.
Well, we have staff that wanted to present next. And then we can ask questions.
You just move the resolution.
Now that you've heard about the proposed project, I'll explain how the request meets the grant requirements.
Can you start with your name, please?
I'm sorry. Dee Reed, Economic Development Coordinator. So I will explain how the request meets the grant requirements and present the staff and CAC recommendations. So I'll start by noting that this is one of the 2 special project requests that met the acceptance deadline, so they are being evaluated under the current policy. Applicants are required to show that their request aligns with the Florida statute, the district CRP, as well as the CRA goals. This request aligns with the Florida statutes, section 163-370C2, which is the rehabilitation of buildings within the CRA area. Section 163-370C5, voluntary repair and rehabilitation under the CRP. And section 163-370H1, which is planning for voluntary repair and rehabilitation of historic buildings. The project aligns with the downtown CRP goals and actions. 1, for repair, retrofit, and rebuild of facilities to be more client resilient. And 2, to preserve, protect, and enhance downtown's architectural, heritage, and historic resources. The total project cost, as mentioned, was $151,827.46, and the applicant has requested the following deviations from standard funding practices: funding for 100% of the project cost instead of the standard 50% match. Also, phased reimbursement at predetermined project milestones rather than full reimbursement at project completion. To remain consistent with standard procedures, Staff recommends an award of 60% of the eligible expenses, not to exceed $91,097, with an additional $20,000 contingency allowance for staff-approved eligible unforeseen work encountered during construction. The 60% funding level reflects the standard 50% owner match with an additional 10% reduction to account for increased expense of making historic preservation improvements. Staff was unable to apply the legacy credit as this is a tax-exempt property. Staff also recommends approval of progress payments as reimbursed throughout the project. For fiscal year 2024 and 2025, the downtown CAC allocated a total of $2 million for special projects grants. Approval of this request, as recommended, would leave a balance of $1,873,720 for future requests. On October 7th, the applicant presented their request to the downtown CAC, and they voted 4-1 to recommend approval of the Tampa Firefighters Museum Special Projects Grant Request as recommended by staff. Staff and the downtown CAC respectfully request the CRA Board approve the Special Projects Grant Agreement between the Community Redevelopment Agency and the Tampa Firefighters Museum for an award of 60% of eligible expense not to exceed $91,097, with a $20,000 contingency for staff-approved eligible unforeseen work encountered during construction and progress payments as reimbursement during the project. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Board Member Clendenin.
Seeing that this is a nonprofit and a very critical architectural building for the city of Tampa and an asset for the city of Tampa, I would urge the CRA board, I would motion to approve the full request for $151,000.
I would second that, but can I ask questions?
Sure. But to that point, I think it's more than 151. There's some change in there, so you need to have the exact amount. I'm just gonna.
Do you need the change? Where'd Wade go?
We're not printing any, at least pennies.
No. I'm just
no
saying,
more pennies.
if
Wait,
you.
what was the total? What was the total?
No. I mean, yes, Ms. Reed has the total. If you want.
Can I ask Mr.
Yes.
Can I ask Mr. Wade a question?
Board Member Carlson.
My question as you're coming up is, how much have you invested in the building over the last 5 years or maybe the last 2 years? And did you include that in your application? Because it sounded like from your presentation that you all have invested a lot into the building, but you didn't know until a year or so ago that you could potentially get CRA money. And so if you had said 2-3 years ago, we're going to spend 500, I don't know what the number is, but 500,000 to renovate the building, and from that we need 150, then you would have met the match. Do you have any idea, ballpark, how much you've invested in the last 5 years or 2 years?
Well, just 2 years ago, the roof was replaced. Once again, that was $105,000 and some change. But I understand roofs may or may not have been something we could have applied for.
Would it?
However,
No. Okay. What
Not
else?
a roof replacement, minor roof repairs.
I'm just trying to figure out. It is important. I thank the staff for trying to stick strictly to the rules, but sometimes when applicants come in, they don't know that they could have. Had you applied 3 years ago or 2 years ago, you might have put the whole package in there. And so, how much do you think you've invested?
well, just on those outside, on those windows, which are a chronic maintenance issue. I've got a list here that I've put in the presentation that we wrote checks for over $9,900 over the past few years just to do some repair and painting. That's just over the past few years. We are constantly working on that building between the air conditioning, which also I understand may not be part of. It's a regular ongoing. Stand here and give you some numbers right off the top of my head.
The other question I had, I think you said when we were briefing before, the city sometimes uses the facility. Does the city pay, or do they?
When we have our 9/11 memorial, when the fire chief comes over to promote and or the hiring ceremonies and stuff that are over. No, we do not charge the city for those additional.
Do you have any idea with all the city events, and I'm not asking you to charge the city, but if, with all the events that the city does, not the union, but the city, do you have any idea what the opportunity cost is? Like if it was private sector, how much you would have charged them a year?
Well, if each ceremony, and let's just go for a rough number, say there's one a month, although that might be slightly high, if we charged around $2,000, that's over $24,000 just in rental fees. But once again, as you stated, we're here for the community. There's other community events that have come through that we give the museum to at a fairly low cost. Children's Board has had meetings there before, and some others.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Young has a question.
Thank you for also presentation.
Thank you.
For D, could you tell me if we were to approve the full amount, how much would that leave for future projects for that CRA?
I do not have that number. Can you use your calculator?
Would it be about one?
It'd be over $1 million.
Yeah,
that they have left.
$1,850,000-ish. Yeah.
So if you take 100,000 off of that, so they'd still have maybe 1.7 million roundabout figure.
Okay. Board Member Clendenin.
And
I'm sorry, did you have further questions? Okay.
And just for clarification, that's just what we've budgeted in that line. It's not, we could do budget realignments and there's other, so that's, just so you know that, maybe Councilwoman or Board Member Young. So what we do is we have the budgets and we've allocated certain pieces of that, but there's more money available if we wanted to do budget reallocations. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to explain, we budget an amount, a maximum of $1 million, or 10% of the area's budget up to $1 million annually. So that number includes the carryover from 2024.
Thank you. And what was the total, could you give me the exact dollar figure you were looking for? I know it was 151 something.
151,827.46.
Thank you. So I'd amend my motion to allocate $151,827.46 to the firefighter for the exterior renovations of the windows and doors.
Do you maintain your second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Board Member Clendenin. I have a second from Board Member Carlson.
I just have a question. Does that include the $20,000 contingency, or would you want to remove that, being that we're awarding the full amount?
Just flat as full amount.
Okay. You don't want to add a $20,000 contingency
I think they
on
should.
a historic property?
I mean, you think
I would leave my second if you add that.
Okay, we'll add it with the $20,000 contingency.
The thing is, may I?
Board Member Carlson.
No, as someone said, one of the main purposes of a CRA is to protect historic buildings. You know, there were at least 2 historic buildings. I think this is Greco era maybe, but this important building, the Tampa Union Station, and had they not protected those buildings back then, they wouldn't exist. And we see in history important buildings in Tampa that were torn down, whole neighborhoods that were torn down, like Central Avenue, and we wish we had them back. And so it happens that the private sector is supporting, a nonprofit is supporting this, but if not for them, the city would likely own it and maintain it. And so whatever their operating expenses are and other things, that's an expense the city doesn't have. And so in the context of all the redevelopment of this building and the support of this building and the activation of it, $150,000 or $170,000 is a really low amount to preserve the legacy and heritage of our firefighters and to remind our kids of where we came from and where we're going. Thank you.
Board Member Clendenin.
Yeah, and just again, right, Seth, think about how many historic buildings we've lost just in the last 40 years. I mean, the Likes building, the Moss Brothers building, I don't know what the future of the Crest facade is going to be, but it just keeps getting worse and worse every day. When we look at, we're struggling with the Jackson House. I mean, the struggles we've had now with Union Station, but we saved a couple houses for the Scrub, the original wood houses in Scrub, but how many of those structures were demolished? That entire area of Nebraska that was historically a black area has been demolished. So we don't have many buildings left, so we gotta take care of the ones we got. Thank you.
I believe the motion may need to include, if your desire is to approve, the progress payments throughout the project instead of reimbursement completely at the end, or full
Yeah,
reimbursement at the end.
they wanted,
As the motion will be to reimburse the museum for the full amount of $151,827.46 with the
$20,000?
$20,000 contingency and the staggered reimbursement policies of the CRA.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Clendenin, a seconded by Board Member Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. We appreciate your service. Looking forward to using that building for many more years to come.
Thank you. You know, may I?
Oh, yes, Board Member Carlson.
You know, Board Member Clendenin, we could use the same important historic criteria to preserve important brutalist architecture that's owned by the city of Tampa.
Sometimes you have to draw the line.
Brutalist architecture is important.
Brutalist architecture is important. Bad brutalist architecture is not.
Okay, so we're going to always have this fight over modernist architecture on this panel.
Ugly ass building next door.
It's gorgeous. Anyway, we are happy to welcome the CAC Chair for Tampa Heights, but we're going to allow Ms. Orr to introduce.
Hi, good morning. Courtney Orr, CRA Development Manager. I have the pleasure of introducing Raj Patel, who is the current acting chair of the Tampa Heights Riverfront CAC. He's going to give a very brief update on activities in that CRA district.
Wonderful. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Raj Patel, Chair for Tampa Heights Riverfront CAC. I'll be very brief. As you know, we don't really have much going on in our district. We have two items, the wayfinding signage update that's going on with a lot of the districts. So phase one has been complete, where they do the inventory of all the signage within all our CRAs. Phase two, they presented 5 options, design options. The CRA board approved it. And so right now they're working with the Tampa Downtown Partnership to update the branding for each neighborhood. And then starting first quarter of next year, with the civil engineer, Florida Design Consultants, on permitting and actual design and production, with the goal of end of next year of the installation, beginning of the installation of all the new wayfinding and branding for the neighborhood. The other fun item we have is the Tampa Heights roundabouts at Highland and Palm and Boulevard and Palm. So there was a, well, Corey Robinson and Courtney have been really good at pushing this along to get the RFP out. And October 31st, that closed out, and there were 159 applicants. So there's a lot to go through. So December 4th, we're gonna have our meeting with the selection committee to go through those all. It probably won't be able to get it done in one meeting, so we'll probably have a follow-up meeting. But from that 159, there's gonna be a short list of, let me see, I think 5. I believe 5 applicants. And then those finalists are gonna have 6 weeks to put together a presentation package for their art installation, sculpture, or whatever it may be for those roundabouts. And once a finalist is chosen, they're gonna be given roughly 40 to 48 weeks for that fabrication. And so that would put us in July, once they're awarded that. And so the goal is for 2027 for the sculpture to be installed, or whatever that art piece may be. And then the only other item is we have 6 new board members. We're still looking for 1 member from the Riverside Heights Civic Association, if you guys know anybody looking. And once that's in place, then we'll have a full board. But other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I have a question for you. So at the roundabout at North Boulevard and Palm, why is there, when you are heading north, a right-hand turn and a roundabout? That is very confusing and very dangerous, and I was wondering if the CRA might look at that and see what we could do to fix that.
Oh, you mean so this, to go straight or right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a traffic engineer, so I have no idea.
Yeah,
And
it
also
is,
that
it is,
roundabout
I mean, people in the city of Tampa don't know how to use traffic circles to begin with, and then when you add a secondary right lane turn, people really don't understand it. So it's gonna be just a random thing I'm gonna ask, the CRA staff to look into, because I do believe that we can work on infrastructure issues. And I think that was put in before we really realized what that entire neighborhood was going to be, so.
Okay. Correct, because I don't think even people coming south, they don't know if someone's going to turn or go
Correct.
straight, so that you don't know how to
It
gauge.
is dangerous, could lead to accidents. I'm surprised it hasn't more often. But as we are looking at adding, you know, wonderful art installations in that area, we want to make sure that they're safe and that people can get around. So, anyone else?
And I believe that roundabout's actually in 2 CRAs, right? Half of it is in the West Tampa CRA.
Oh.
Oh, part of it's in the
Okay,
city.
part of it's in the
Oh,
city. Okay, so either way, you know, would love to look into that, and I'm happy to lend my support. Yes, that it's
Yeah.
really bad.
But it doesn't, when they come, that doesn't interfere with the roundabout traffic.
But it does. If you're coming around here and trying to go straight, you would run into that person who doesn't see you.
Oh, I see that. I see the guy coming from the north and coming around. Okay, I see it.
So.
I navigate that thing all the time. I know how to do roundabouts, so.
Yeah, but most people don't. So, anyway, thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you, and looking forward to seeing what's next. And if you are from Riverside Heights, anyone listening today, you know, reach
Thank you.
out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. We have a lot going on in our director's report today. It's a busy one.
Good morning, Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA Director. I'm going to try to be as expedient as possible.
How's that job working out for you?
Actually, it's gotten a little bit easier, and I believe some introductions are in order.
Yes, I was going to hold it to the end, but we can do that now. I'm going to invite Mr. Felix Nunez up. As you know, I've been wearing multiple hats as the CRA manager, previously serving in that role, as the manager, development manager for East Tampa, as well as Drew Park. We have brought Mr. Nunez on board to fill that role, and we will be making our way around to meet and introduce to the board members. But I just wanted to formally introduce Mr. Nunez at this time, and we can say a few words.
Hi, good morning. My name is Felix Nunez. I am the new CRA development manager for East Tampa and Drew Park. I've got about a 20-year history in nonprofit housing, community development background, and I have about 3.5 years having just left Pinellas County in the CRA as well. So go Bulls. I graduated from USF, and I'm about to finish my MPA next month at USF as well, and I'm looking forward to getting to work with all the communities.
Congratulations. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have you aboard, and just really thrilled just to be filling out some of our team. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And we do have another new hire that I would like to acknowledge, Ms. Latasha Hicks, who is going to be working with Ms. Parks in the housing component of our CRA office. And so wanted to acknowledge Ms. Hicks also starting this week as well.
Wonderful. What are our openings look like?
We have one more that has been advertised and is closed on the housing side, and then we have 2 other positions that are still remain open as it relates to the communications and the contract manager.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, let's move forward.
Yes, we've already taken care of the planning design awards presentations. You've received the customary projects tracker as it relates to the special projects and commercial grants. I would like to highlight the Florida Redevelopment Association conference that several of our staff members attended last month. And one of your colleagues or former colleagues, former Chair Henderson, actually was recognized with the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Florida Redevelopment Association. And during the gala on the Thursday evening, and they presented that award, and it was received by her daughter and her sister, who is also a city employee. So I just wanted to highlight that to you all. And another item is that I kind of drew a short straw and was appointed to the Florida Redevelopment Association Board. The City of Tampa and Tampa CRA has traditionally had a representative on that board. Of course, you know that Ms. Thrower served for several years, and I am next in the pipeline. So I'm looking forward to working with the Florida Redevelopment Association Board as we continue to do this work across not only the city of Tampa, but also across the state of Florida.
Well, I know we all want to thank Ms. Thrower for her many years of service on that board, and you have big shoes to fill.
Yes, that I know. The next item is the, as you know, last year we presented certificates of appreciation to CAC members that we had rolling off from the various CRAs, and we would like to do that again in December. So if the board would entertain a motion to do that during the December meeting.
Do I have a motion? Okay. So I have a motion from Board Member Clendenin and a second by Board Member Maniscalco. Any conversation about that? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Ayes have it.
Thank you. The next two items, and I'll couple them together, relates to the FY25 appropriation of interest and the fiscal year 26 proposed TIF revenue adjustments that were made. I know that came before you all last month on the council side as a budgetary item, but just wanted to acknowledge that during the course of the meeting.
So question there, do you have the budgets to show what's going to be going down in what areas?
Yes, not here physically, but yes, we can show that.
Yeah, if you could email those to us and then post them in the agenda for today so the public can go back and take a look at those. Just thought of that. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Also, when you send them to us, copy Ms. Kopesky.
The next item that I'd like to touch on is the Franklin Street improvements. Last November, the board approved up to $6 million for streetscape improvements for Franklin Street. We've had continuous conversations with representatives from the Downtown Partnership, and there have been a few challenges, so we're asking that the CRA be able to take the lead on that project, and then also we will work in very close collaboration with the Downtown Partnership moving forward.
Board Member Clendenin.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I would just assume pause that project until they're ready to go forward, or come back to this board. So if I would be more willing to suspend that pre-authorized grant and have another presentation before for a decision point. So I'd be actually a motion to suspend the previously authorized authorization for the Franklin Street project.
$6 million.
I'm sorry, $6 million until, and then have that come back to the CRA for authorization again with another decision point.
Do we have a second for conversation? Okay. So can you talk to us a little bit about if that's a possibility?
We can, but as a staff, we're prepared to move forward with the request to bring that into fruition. We've already started the conversations with contract admin to advertise the RFP, and we're also meeting with city departments internally as well, mobility, solid waste, and parks and recreation as well.
I think that there's an awful lot of things that I think in fact, I was actually pushed back a little bit on the partnership when this was first presented. I think that there's a lot of private investment that's happening along Franklin Street, and as we see what's happening on the north end down there as well, some potential changes, streetcar redevelopment that's going to affect portions of Florida and integration. I'm in talks with Hart about reclaiming Marion Street. So I think that there's an awful lot of fluidity right now in what's happening with these streetscapes, and I think it's best just to push a pause button on it.
Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, I don't know if I disagree, but I think this is a really important project for downtown, and there have been several attempts to restart Franklin Street. And it seems like with the new director of the Downtown Partnership, it seems like she's ready and able to lead on that. There's a lot of pieces moving that I know she's trying to bring together, but I think it would be a vote of confidence in the partnership to allow them to go forward. But also, this is a really important project, and we're running out of money in downtown, and I wouldn't want anything to affect that. My concern about the project is there are several special interests who are trying to control the process, and it needs to be based on what the public wants, not what a particular special interest wants. It shouldn't be following any person's agenda or any company's agenda. It should be following the community's agenda. Thank you.
So that's my concern, is if we want the partnership to do the work, then we have to let them figure it out. So, but what this would be doing is giving the work to our CRA staff to do.
And taking it away from the partnership.
Yeah, that's what this vote would do, if we approve what,
So that's why I say we should push a pause, I say push a pause button until it comes back and have them come back to us.
Why can't we ask them to put it through the partnership then instead?
That's what it was supposed to be.
It's already there, they just haven't, are you free to discuss what?
Yes, there's been some financial constraints for them to facilitate and move the project along, where we can move a little faster. And it's been been proposed in November. We're just ready to move as a staff, and we've had conversations with the representatives from the partnership and the various city departments that will be involved. And we're excited about the opportunity to move it forward, working in conjunction with the downtown partnership.
Board Member Clendenin.
I'm confused. So you're saying that you are able to accomplish the scope and scale of what had been proposed to the partnership had proposed for a price point that they can't accomplish?
Well, there's a certain component of the grants and that you all approved in November. There's design work that has to be done, and it's a reimbursable grant. So ultimately, we would have to reimburse them for the work that would need to be done to get it to a certain point.
Board Member
I thought
Carl.
we resolved that months ago. I set up a
I'm
phone
still
call to try to
confused.
resolve it. And besides that, even if we can't resolve it internally, we can go to the county and get them to approve. Cliff showed us that we can get things done outside. This concerns me a lot for the reason I mentioned a minute ago. There are these political forces that are trying to control this, and this is one of the reasons why we need to fix the contract between the city and the CRA also. If the city wants to lead this project, let the city pay for it, let the city do it. If we're going to do it, if we're going to fund it in any way, we need to make sure it's based on what the community wants. And the Downtown Partnership for 30 or so years has been the leader in organizing the community. So if this is taking it out of the hands, I didn't get briefed on this, and I misunderstood from what you said, but if it's taken out of the hands of the partnership and we're handling it because of a technicality that I thought was fixed months ago, I'm really, really concerned about that. And I think we should, instead of canceling it, we should continue it and have staff come back with a solution and let the Downtown Partnership run it.
That's precisely why I said push pause. That's what you.
Instead of saying push pause, which could lead to say that we don't trust the Downtown Partnership, I think we should just continue to insist that the staff fix this and come back next month.
Okay, I'm good with. I think that is the same intent. So yes, I agree with that.
This is not somebody's playground to pick what they want for their own political reasons. This is the community's process. The community needs to be involved, and the community needs to lead it. Thank you.
So what is the pleasure of this board?
Yeah,
It's December 11th.
I mean, we were not going to have answers in December, will we?
No, it's a quick turnaround. We have deadlines for the December 11th
about
meeting because of the holiday schedule.
January 15th.
I motion to continue this item to January 15th.
But let's be a little more specific.
Add that we request the staff to fix the technical issues regarding how the grant is. It's a technicality about how it's applied, and so we want them to fix the technical issues and/or help us go to the county to get approval to allow this to go.
Cedric, help me work with what do we need for this to be able to move this forward as intended?
I'm gonna yield to Attorney Shepard. I know he's on.
Attorney Shepard.
He may be on mute, but I'm not an empty chair. So
Okay.
continue
Are you up on this on the issues?
I am not up
Okay,
on
that's
the
why
facts
we're
of it.
thinking that Shepard
Yes.
is up on the issue itself.
I get him to unmute himself.
And we'll play the Jeopardy.
Okay, thank you. I was pushing the unmute and it would not work for me.
we've covered this a couple of times at the staff level. And the biggest problem that I have, and this is, you will recall perhaps, this is one of the first projects I was asked to get involved with drafting a funding agreement for. You know, I think at the very first meeting I attended, it was something that was presented as a PowerPoint. And the biggest issue that I've had in dealing with the folks at the partnership is that one of the first questions I asked them per your, funding agreements, they have a provision that says eligible projects. And in other words, the specific projects that you guys approved, such as, is it a streetscape? Is it special lighting? Is it landscaping? Is it drainage? What are those projects that were actually approved by the board? They were asking me. I'm just a lawyer and I don't know what you guys approved in terms of actual projects. When I asked the question, I got a PowerPoint, which doesn't answer the question. So what needs to be fleshed out is, what is it for the $6 or $7 million that was approved that we are supposed to be spending that money on, so that I can draft a funding agreement consistent with your wishes? So from my perspective as the lawyer who doesn't make the decisions but just drafts the agreement.
So Mr. Shepherd, would it be appropriate for us to continue this item to the December meeting with the January meeting with the request of the downtown partnership be present to represent specifics of what is requested so that you can draft that agreement?
That would be delightful, and it's one of the things I've sort of discussed with staff so that there's real clarity. You know, we're going to do street lighting that's going to make up $1 million of this grant. We're going to do sidewalks, which make up $1.5 million of this, and so forth. So I know what are the approved projects that make up the total budget, so I can put together the funding agreement.
So Board Member Clendenin, would you be willing to take that project on? Shepherding it? Because it's going to need a shepherd.
Well,
I think
Can I
Ms.
just
Young is the
Board Member Carlson.
There are two things that happen. Number one, what Ms. Shepherd was mentioning, there was a transition of leadership after we first approved this. And so the new leadership had to come up to speed on what was happening and try to figure out how to lead on it. The second thing, though, was before the downtown partnership, and I wish they were here so we don't have to speak for them, but before they can approve or propose street lights and seats and things like that, they've got to design it. And the holdup several months ago, which I thought was fixed, is can we allow a design grant? And and my understanding, it was a technicality because it was our own rules that we could change. If it's the CRA rules, then as I understand with Mr. Shepherd, we can go to the county, which is the other party in the CRA, and get their approval and come back and get it approved. But the downtown partnership and the CRA in general can't do anything unless we have a design, and the design has to be based on getting input from the public. So I would ask in the motion that we ask them to resolve that issue before they come back in January.
Mr. Shepherd, why couldn't this board make that exception to our own rules?
Make which exception, sir?
To be able to have a design grant.
Yeah.
It's your grant and your exceptions to cause, so long as they fall within the statutory limitations. And pre-development is one of the areas where we have to be real careful. There has to be control of the property. In this case, we control the property, if I understand it correctly. And so, and that's one in our pre-development grant program. That's one of the things I think probably Ms. Reed could probably tell you about. But it's one of the things that we ask the applicants to have is control of the property. Now, with an agreement with us,
so we have control of the property. So that box is checked.
Yeah. So short of that, there isn't anything other than the fact that the pre-development program that you have now, I don't think would apply to this type of grant. But yes, you guys make those rules.
So this board is authorized to, so we could come back here looking into the future, if we continued this to January 15th, had the partnership present in this room with staff, this board can basically create our own policy to have the pre-development grant at that date.
But can you ask them to resolve the issues before? Because we don't want them to give an update and say it's still not resolved.
So how about this? I would ask that CRA staff and the downtown partnership have individual meetings with each board member between now and January 15th to help solve those problems. How is that?
I agree.
Because this is not the forum for solving those, but if you talk to each of us, it would be. the more appropriate form.
The main thing they need to do is the staff, the downtown partnership, and Mr. Shepherd need to get together to figure out what the legal issues are regarding our rules and/or 163. And once they sort that out, then they need to brief us and ask us for input.
Yes,
So-
yes. But that's why I'm asking if there is a board member here who'd be willing to shepherd this process along.
I know you're young, but this is
Okay.
your district. I think this would be a good one for you to
Everything is
check
her
on.
district,
I know.
so that's not fair.
No?
That's just not fair to say.
You don't think this would be a good one to tackle? Well, we can't really, because we can't.
One of the
have
things we've-
sunshine issues. Well, I'll take it. I'll coordinate. I will coordinate with you all. Let's get together and let's see how we can shepherd this so that we can be prepared to move on this at the January meeting.
Yes, Director
Yes.
McCray.
So, one of the options may be is that a portion of that $6 million be designated for the design work.
That's what we're going to work on.
Yes, but
Yeah.
that is the goal. So,
Yeah.
so the motion still stands to move this forward.
So to continue this to January 15th with the conditions, and I will work with CRA staff and the downtown partnership to, let's set up a meeting, Cedric, between the three of us, and we'll figure it out.
And to also have individual meetings with board members before this comes back in January.
Okay, so after our tete-a-tete of the three, us, and then after, the results of that, you will brief out to individual board members.
Does that work? Okay,
Okay.
so we have a motion by board member
Sam, you listening to all that?
And I believe, have a second for board member Carlson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So I just really want to say that this is the heart of why we are struggling with the commercial grant agreement. And so it's amazing that we had a perfect example of it right here, right now, and why I believe this isn't fully baked. But anyway, that's for later on in
Can
the
I
day.
say
So, board member Carlson.
Two things. One is, for anybody watching who's not interested in downtown, this is arguably one of the most important projects we could fund in downtown. There are individual projects like Tampa Theater that are important, but this is the pedestrian retail activated area that was built a long time ago and hasn't been fully activated. And it's the way to tie everything together. And we've got a lot of new buildings in downtown, but we don't have the activation that other big cities have, and this will help drive that. And so that's why it's so important. The second thing, and this will get back to the item about the contract later, who made the decision to change this? Why? The last conversation I had was that we were going to figure out how to do a design grant, and then suddenly now the downtown partnership's not going to work on it, but the staff is going to do it. Who made that decision? Did the city ask us to do that?
No, it was not the city. We've had ongoing meetings and conversations with the downtown partnership, and then brought in other departments within the city just to kind of have that conversation. And we felt we would work very closely with the downtown partnership to bring this into fruition, and we could do the work internally.
I'll just say this and I'll talk later, but we've seen a lot of cases where the city puts their thumb on the scale, and this is a separate entity, and in theory we control the other 1.85 billion in the budget, but in reality the mayor does, and I think that we're directly, as a board, we're directly responsible. If something goes well and the mayor's office wants to take credit, fine. But we have a lot of risk here. We have people in the community who have demands, and we have a lot of frustrated people who can't get grants. And so we need to make sure that the contract is written such that the staff 100% report to us and to the executive director, and they're not influenced with somebody else putting the thumb on the scale. That way we can move these projects faster.
Okay. Yes, so anything else in your director's
So
report?
I just want to acknowledge this was a funding agreement, not a commercial grant, for the record.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing, and we understand the importance of the project and moving it forward, and that's why we felt if we brought it in-house in conjunction and working in conjunction with the downtown partnership, it would be able to move a lot faster, and so that we can bring that into fruition.
Okay. I did ask you during prep meeting to have a little bit to say about Herman Massey Park, which is right along the Franklin corridor. So how are we doing on that park?
So yes, we're doing well. There's a art installation that's been installed, and if I'm not mistaken, we will probably be cutting a ribbon at some point early this spring, next spring.
Okay. Great, wonderful. Really excited because using that as a catalyst too for what's going on Franklin, we cannot talk about those things separately. So really do appreciate.
That's positive, because that's part of what I was worried
Yeah.
about when I was saying this.
Yeah.
The north side, remember, I've been at the north side.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great.
Exactly. Well, and everything. Yes, we did. We took a vote. So, okay, anything else in the director's report?
Just the Ybor resident worker survey that was supplied to you, and if you would like a more formal presentation, it's in your agenda packet, but we can have the consultant that completed the report come back in December to provide a verbal report.
Board Member Carlson.
I always like to hear, I like the public to hear what the public's saying, so I would recommend yes.
I think, okay, so, do we have a, so we have a motion for Board Member Carlson, we have a second from Board Member Maniscalco, and, yeah, Board Member
Can we limit it to
Carlson.
5 minutes, though?
Okay, for a 5-minute limit. And I would say that highlighting preferably, I'll have something to say about that toward the end of the meeting, but highlighting preferably pedestrian and public safety. Hopefully there's some questions about that, and after what happened on Saturday, we need to be talking about that moving forward. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Okay, so is that do it for our director's report?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So we have number 3. We have a written report, and I have not heard anything from Board Member Vieira, so I believe we are just going to accept the written report. Okay. So I have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco, a second from Board Member Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We are talking about the amphitheater or band shell at Perry Harvey Park. I think we can do that. Yeah, we have the report on that. Are we good on that? Okay. So we are very excited about that. My only question is what we're going to be doing with the mobile one that's there right now, and I think that's a conversation that we all need to have because it goes to Winter Village and Curtis Hickson for part of the year, apparently 2 months. But what could we do with that covering for the other 10 months of the year? Yes, Ms.
Courtney
Orr.
Orr, CRA Development Manager. So I did reach out to Parks yesterday, and they said that they still could accommodate the storage of that at the Perry Harvey Park. So there's a contract in place, and they were going to continue with the contract to keep
Okay.
it stored there.
Okay, but I do think it's worth a conversation to have. Is that the best place to have a second covering? Is there a better park in the CRA that it might benefit from?
I was going to say something.
I think that's a second discussion for another day. But
Okay, so
Can I
is
bring
it,
up something different? Or?
was that funded by the CRA?
It was not.
Okay, so I think it's something that we as city council could discuss.
Okay.
But I would love to hear what possibilities, because if we're creating this brand new band shell, that's great, but there's a park out there, believe me, there's a park out there that needs shade.
Yeah, and so I don't know the ramifications of the contract that was mentioned to me. I didn't know there was a contract in place, so I don't know for how long that contract exists.
Okay, so I'll have Ms. Scharf reach out to you and see if we can, Ms. Scharf, if you're listening to talk to Parks and see if we can bring it. I'll try to do a motion tonight to bring that conversation forward.
we need a motion to receive and file on that.
Yeah, so motion to receive and file on number 4.
We have it from now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so motion by Board Member Maniscalco, seconded by Board Member Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Can I s-
opposed?
Can I just make one more comment about the
Sure.
empathy? As we hand this off to Parks or whomever, we need to recommend or be mindful of rules about noise. Now that there's a pretty dense neighborhood around that or emerging around it, we need to make sure they're mindful of that, and there need to be some rules about decibels and how late you can go. The amphitheater out by the fairgrounds, even though it's far away from most residents, the sound carried a long ways, and so they had to spend a lot of money to go back and protect against sound.
Okay, I'm going to take a point of privilege here because we have a board member who needs to leave in about 10 minutes. Well, 5 minutes. So I'm going to skip down to required approvals to some of the areas that we could possibly get out of the way. Item number 13, Board Member Carlson, you brought forward a service agreement that I believe we want to continue maybe till next month, because I have not had time to go over it.
Yeah, I need more time.
I would recommend, and I apologize, somehow I inadvertently deleted a bunch of my draft and I had to rewrite it. So I would move to continue item number 13 to
December 11th.
December 11th.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Carlson, a second by Board Member Maniscalco. Any discussion?
No.
It sounds, Board Member Carlson is passing out physical copy. Is there one for the
have
clerk?
mine. Yeah, I already have mine.
Yeah.
I already have a copy here.
Okay.
Can I just say like 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Can I just spend?
Yes, absolutely, Board Member Carlson.
The intent of this is that before I joined City Council, even though CRA was a separate entity, it was treated like a funding source for the city. And 7 years ago, we created the executive director position. All this does is it goes through and further develops that. I'm not an attorney, but I've worked on written a lot of professional services agreement. And this is an outsourced agreement. It's a professional service agreement. We're agreeing to buy services from the city, which we could buy from somebody else. We don't have to buy them from the city. We could hire our own, but following purchasing and HR rules of the city. But all this does is it goes through some of the things that we anticipate. And when we come back, we can't talk in between, but when we come back, if you all have thoughts or ideas, I hope that we could go through and maybe edit or I don't care what parts we have, but the idea here is that the executive director reports to us as the board, and then the staff report to the executive director to make that clear. And if the city, what it does, it clarifies the city is an applicant, not a part of the CRA. And if the city wants to apply for something because of the concerns of the community, they would need to go through a transparent process and not put their thumb on the scale. It also does things like just specifically refers to the CRA board instead of the CRA or city council. There's a city council resolution that would go on top of this, but we as the CRA board, not as the city council, are a party to the agreement. If you notice on the signatory at the end, the mayor was on it and the city council, I think, but not the CRA board, or one of them was missing, so I added them. And so anyway, it goes through and a lot of this, about 30% of it was already in the document, and I just modified it a little bit, but there's a lot of new stuff in here too.
So I think it would be wonderful if either Mr. Shepherd or Mr. Brockens could send the original, or the one we're currently working on, so we can take a look. Board Member Clendenin.
I just want to make, Councilman Carlson, I looked through it and I didn't see anything that really put up any kind of like bells or whistles, but has Shepherd and the city attorney looked at this too, just to?
No, he hasn't had time.
Okay.
One other thing real fast, it says services, and it's a real short thing. 7 years ago, when I helped edit the previous document, it was very real estate heavy, and I understand there are rules about what CRA can spend money on, but we spent too much time just focusing on the real estate and not focusing on the larger context of why we're doing the real estate. Like the Franklin Street thing, it's not just a project, it has a larger context for activating downtown. Correct. And the same thing with Tampa Theater. And so what I did is I tried to simplify the services and then say we're focused on our strategic plan, which is the big plan that covers all the districts, and then also the CRPs. In the past, they were only focused on the CRPs, but we went through a lot of time to build a strategic plan as well.
Okay, Board Member, okay. So we have a motion. I believe we already approved the motion. Did we? Yes, excellent. So then item number 14 is approving the schedule of the CRA regular meetings. And number 15 is the stormwater improvements. Can we, for our channel side, can we go ahead and? 14 and 15?
I move 14. Second.
Okay. So we have a motion approving 14 and 15 by Board Member Clendenin, second by Board Member Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd kind of like to talk about 17 a bit more when we're talking about waivers. So I'd like to approve 18, 19, and 20, which are the two program changes, that's how we move the money around. So as you were asking about the the money for the fire station. So what we're doing here is we're doing a program change. So we're just moving money from one line item to another. So that's what those are. And then we have two folks being appointed to the Ybor City CRA. We have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco and a second from Board Member Clendenin. All in favor for 18 through 20. Okay, any opposed? Okay.
Are you Canadian now?
Are you Canadian now? So what is the pleasure of the board? We have a board member leaving, so we have about 20 minutes to discuss an item. Is there anything that you are less interested in? That's not a nice thing to say, but.
You're going to be back at 1:30?
Back after lunch.
Yeah, 1:30.
If you guys are still meeting, I'll be back.
Oh, we'll still be meeting. So why don't we take up item number 12? This is the Affordable Homeownership Project, partnership with Domain Homes.
Okay. B Parks, CRA Community Development Coordinator. I am here with the pleasure to introduce a project that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can't, okay. Yeah, Board Member Clendenin, if you can come back for an emergency bathroom break. Otherwise, we have to break for 5 minutes, but we're so close. If not, we'll just keep going. Yeah, are you sure? Okay, okay, so 12.
Okay, so again, B Parks Community Development Coordinator for the record. It's my pleasure to present this project, which actually just kind of fell in my lap. No one came looking for funding for this. We have another parcel, as I mentioned previously in the briefings, that we had on Spruce Street. And as you know, we were actively looking for different lots to invest affordable housing. And it just so happens that the lots we were looking at were owned currently by Domain Homes. I did approach them with a concept to try to create attainable housing, being that these were going to be market rate anyway. So with that, that's how this came into fruition. This will have 5 single-family homes. So again, this is home ownership, not rental, which is extremely important and supported by the community. All of the houses will be under the City of Tampa sales price, currently held at $450,000, but well under that. And again, we are at the moment recommending $75,000 per home, resulting in a total of $375,000. This was approved to move forward by the West Tampa CAC. So I'm just going to bring up a representative from Domain Homes so they can go through the presentation quickly.
Does anyone need a presentation?
Do you need a presentation?
No, I think we will pass on the presentation, but I did have a quick question for you if no one else, Board Member Carlson?
No, I just want to make a comment.
I think this is wonderful, but I'm curious how we go about doing the same thing in other CRAs where we're looking for property, because I think this is, again, what we're hearing from the community is, like, how would we go out and search for these infill lots in, say, East Tampa?
So we currently own, as you know, the community has let you know as well, we own property in East Tampa. So we will be releasing a RFP shortly in the first quarter of next year that will have these lots available to further enhance the infill for homeownership. So we have land to enhance that. In addition to that, they are different individuals who could propose different projects with land that they currently own within the East Tampa CRA again. So we're looking for active lots. We're looking to partner with local developers that might have the same concept, and we're looking to push, as you know, forward the lots that we personally own for these type of initiatives.
So we don't own any residential lots in West Tampa?
No, we don't. Well, we do. We have 2 lots that we own. One of them is on Spruce that we're going to rehab because we already own that. So again, it's going to be like a street impact based with this project. But we are actively looking for any type of land within all of the districts.
Okay. Board Member Maniscalco.
Yes, ma'am. You had mentioned.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
you had mentioned East Tampa and the lots coming online. You said first quarter of this year coming up, 26?
Yes.
So because of the time constraints and the East Tampa CRA sunsetting, which it'll be here before we know it, will we prioritize those lots and anybody that's interested in redeveloping them, being that we've had them for a while, and now, I mean, time has always been of the essence, but can we speed up the process and say, you know, we're going to run out of time because the CRA expires and whatnot?
Yes, we are looking into moving that forward. It's currently written, so we're going to go through now internal review for that request for proposal, in addition to 2 other requests for proposals that will be out for the Palafox and for the 12th and Osborne location as well. So East Tampa is going to be at full display the first of the year.
Thank you.
So didn't we ask that the board see those before they go out?
Yes, they're not even, we're in internal review, meaning
Okay.
the staff is making sure we have everything covered.
Excellent.
All of purchasing requirements are in there to dispose of that land. And then again, you know, we'll go through that through Director McCray.
Great. Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, sorry to bring this up, but some folks in the community have called me, and you know, there's still a kind of stigma that Domain was given or allocated 100 or so lots in the last administration. And as I've talked to Domain and I've talked to other people, that wasn't Domain's fault, that was the last administration's fault. That's what they did. I think we've been pushing for more diversity of product, diversity of companies, you know, different types of ownership. And this is not like that. This is not 100 lots or a big monolithic building with a big subsidy. This is just a few single-family houses, and so I wanted to make that difference there. And then even though Domain is not a small developer, it's acting like a small developer here, and I hope that we can use these kinds of lots and these kinds of projects to promote more diversity in small development. You know, all the research shows that you shouldn't build big monolithic buildings with hundreds of people on assisted housing. Instead, you need diversity of all kinds. And ideally, there would be smaller units, and not just single family, but quads and duplexes and everything spread throughout the community. So little pockets of density along with this. But home ownership, as we know, is a primary indicator of multi-generational wealth. And as we want people to earn more and pass money and resources on to their families, owning their own home is something we should aspire to. And I think Ms. Coney's still here. I don't know about Ernest, but Ernest is back there, yeah. But he told me a year or so ago there are something like 2,000 families in Tampa that have gone through the HUD-approved training program, and there's no houses. So these are families that went through months of training to prepare, to budget. They know how to pay for all the line items, including all the maintenance and everything. And they're approved. They have the down payment. They know how to get it, but there's no product. And so the more we can fill that 2,000 or whatever the number is gap here, the better we're going to help our community. Helping 2,000 families buy their own homes will completely transform our community. Thanks.
Board Member Young.
And then with this project, how much in down payment assistance is available with these homes, correct?
Oh, thank you for that, bringing that up. So in addition to our $50,000 that the CRA could provide in down payment assistance, they could also partner with the city of Tampa and obtain an additional funding to a possibility of up to $100,000 worth of down payment assistance to purchase the house. So that does buy down that price, making it affordable. In addition to that, they could go through different lending institutions that these housing counseling agencies that actually help these clients move along have advantage to, you know, so this has been done. They work their way in providing subsidy to make the price lower. Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Is there, this might already be, but is there a list of those housing counseling agencies available to?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Good question. Thank you so much. Okay, so anybody want to move to? Okay, motion from Board Member Maniscalco, second from Board Member Carlson. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we have 11 minutes. You want to do 5? This was Board Member Carlson's. That's why I wanted to ask Board Member Carlson if he's.
Yeah, the idea here is to try to help in situations like we're talking about, how the smaller developers that are building one unit, the small nonprofits and others, they don't know how to apply.
So
So the idea here was to help them. And
Do
so-
we want to combine that with a conversation with 6 and 7, as with housing and commercial grants? I do believe they kind of all go together.
I think, could I make a motion to receive and file, but then also
Okay.
ask them to have ask the staff to have some kind of seminar in the community to help people figure out how to apply?
Okay, so let's ask, is there a seminar available to help people apply?
So yeah, that is part of the future plans as
Name.
we build out I'm sorry, Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA Director. That is part of the future plans of the commercial grants and special products that we have. And that is to set up, we can call it a workshop or a boot camp to, on a designated date and time location, to inform individuals that may have a level of interest in applying for a grant, so that
Yeah,
they're
the-
aware and
part-
providing
part-
that information, walk them through the process.
Part of this, and I think maybe it was Ms. Reed who said this, somebody said or maybe in public comment, if you're a big developer with lots of units, it's easy to get state and federal funding. If you're a small building, a duplex, you can't do the stacks the same way. And so we can't count, it's not apples and apples to compare those. And so that's the whole purpose of this, to try to solve those problems. And maybe it's worth a special seminar to say, here's how we made it simpler for you, here's how we made it easier for you, that's different from the regular boot camps. Anyway, I'll just vote to motion to receive and file and leave it up to
Okay,
staff to do
motion
that.
to receive and file number 5 by Board Member Carlson, second by Board Member Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. How about, I know we have item number 9 and item number 10 are funding requests. Do we want full?
I'd like to say a couple of things about them. I mean, how does the board feel about a full presentation?
Do any of us need a full presentation for either of these
No.
items?
It sounded like somebody in the public wants to hear it.
They shouldn't be talking.
Do you want to hold them till after lunch?
Sure, I just know that we have some folks here who might be waiting on that vote, so.
Oh, right.
Um,
We've been briefed, the public has had a chance to comment.
Okay.
Should we just ask, maybe they can do abbreviated, like 1 or 2 minute presentation?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, maybe Ms. Parks, if you could speak to, we'll start with the Clonts property.
Okay.
Item number 9.
All right, so for the record, B. Parks, Community Development Coordinator for the Tampa CRA. So just briefly, on April 24th of 2024, the Clonts Property Inc. submitted a application for funding for attainable housing in the Grant Park area. They actually asked for $2.5 million, which was fully supported by the East Tampa CAC to fund that. However, due to the budget, we could provide 1.750 for them to build 12 units within the Grant Park neighborhood within the East Tampa CAC. In your memo, you'll see how that's broken down in 26, 27, 28 for the funding amount. So we're just looking ahead for review and approval today.
Could you show that on the slide?
Sure.
That particular page?
So, is it called the wolf now? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's the
So,
No more
fiscal
Elmo.
impact, you see, the total development cost for the project was 3.5. So Tampa CRE's recommended investment of the 1.7 represents 50% of the total project cost. Staff recommends the CRE funding be allocated to Clonts property over a 3-year period, and you can see there FY 26, 27, and 28 at around $500,000. And again, this was fully supported by the East Tampa CAC.
Board Member Maniscalco.
So I'm going to support this. I'm excited to support this. I know this area well, whatever. I can tell you my whole family story again. It doesn't matter. My wife asked me this morning, what about this house? I think it was right around 48th or 47th Street, right across the street over in the Highland Pines area. $350,000 for a house. And I said, absolutely not. I mean, it's it's a beautiful house, but I go, it's not affordable, you know. But investments like this for, you know, the families in the community, the housing that we need. We had members of the community, members of local churches talking about people having to move out, you know, and there were the schools, that situation, because they couldn't afford to live there anymore. And so I'm happy to support this. Again, this is a worthy investment for something that we absolutely need. Move to approve.
My only question is, here in the file, it says the applications for developer subsidy of 2.5 million.
Oh, yeah, because I always put in the original amount that they request. It is
Okay.
2.5, and we counter with the 1.75.
Okay.
After we review.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah,
Would you like for them to take a minute to say something?
Board Member Carlson?
Okay.
For transparency purposes.
Less than 1 minute. We're moving along. 1 minute.
Sorry.
Yeah, you could put
State your name, please.
My name is Cynthia Clonts Garcia, and I am the owner of Clonts Properties, and this is my son Parker. So as you can see, we are legacy owners for over 25 years on the vacant lots, 30 years on our strip center, familiar with the CRA program, working with Cedric and his team with commercial interior and exterior renovation. Proud to announce we have 7 new businesses going in that plaza as we speak. Moving on to the affordable housing, we are engaged in the community. We know what they need. We know the size of the houses that they need. We are prepared to use our own land, which is right there on the main Martin Luther King and 50th Street I-4 corridor, to build 12 two-bedroom, one-bath homes. So we have a stake in this community. We have a stake in this project in the form of $1.75 million. So we are here to stay. My son has an office in our plaza. He will be managing. We're not going to build it and be gone. We're there, and we've been there, and we're there to stay. We're looking to do 41% of those units will be at 50% or less of the AMI. So we recognize the need in the community and the need for affordable housing. So we are making a big commitment to those that don't even, make that 80% of the AMI. So 41% of the units would be 50% or below. We've done our performas, and we feel that this will work for the community, and we just hope that we have your support.
Okay. We have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco, a second from Board Member Carlson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we have one more in us? Oh, we got 2 minutes, yes. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is, okay, hold on. All righty. Yes, so let's go. On May 16th, 2025, the CDC of Tampa submitted a funding request for 79 units, Heritage Heights at 29th. This is part of a more static site development, more of a mixed-use component. The households will be earning between 40% AMI to 60% AMI, again, reaching the very low community. They're asking for $5 million to create the 79 units, and it was fully supported by the East Tampa CAC to move forward with the projects.
Okay. Board Member Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that the Conies are here so I can tell them how much I appreciate them, and the East Tampa CDC. Dr. Johnson, who's right behind Miss Lockett in the front, took me through this area a while ago, and he told me we've acquired this property and this and he showed me that dream of what this area is going to be, or it says reimagine, and I'm glad to support this because again, 29th and Lake, has gone through a lot of changes over the last half a century. And this is another wonderful investment with an organization that has shown proven results through the community. So it's a good partnership to have right there in the middle of the community.
Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, and Ms. Chloe Coney said in the beginning that in public comment that this is a 30-year dream. I think she and Ernest drove me around maybe 15 or 20 years ago. We went around there and they were talking about what it could be. And so this is not like a fly-by-night new thing. And this is it's a nonprofit, but it's an organization that's invested in the community and is trying to build up the community in a thoughtful way. Adding great restaurants, adding training programs and others to help move the community forward. And they also work on, entrepreneurship programs and others. And so, we need, one of the concerns of the community is we need diversity of where we're funding. But this is one of they're a large nonprofit and a big player in East Tampa, but in the overall scheme of things, compared to some of the big companies, they're small. And so, this is one of the organizations that I think we should fund, and they've spent a lot of time on this. There are other worthy nonprofits, and as we were saying in this other item earlier, we've got to figure out how to get them through the funding process as well. Thank you.
Okay. I do want, since we did give the last developers a moment to speak, if
who wants to speak on that, or the next one? Yes, ma'am.
yeah, if you want to come and just talk a little bit about it, and I will just remind everyone that we just did the second reading to approve the rezoning of this last Thursday, and I'm still thrilled about the bike racks. I actually was talking about it just the other day and how cool they are, so appreciate it.
Thank you. Vanessa McCleary, Vice President of Real Estate Development for the CDC of Tampa. I do want to make one correction. When we went through the rezoning, we did end up decreasing the number of units from 79 to 75. In the overall project, we picked those units back up along with some additional because this is phase one of a multi-phase project to redevelop that area. Not only bringing affordable housing, but also bringing retail. We're in talks with grocery stores so that we can bring fresh food into the area as well.
Excellent, excellent. Anything else? Okay, Board Member Young. Oh.
No, I was just going to say Malik Jordan with Walter Cooper Companies, and I just felt a great sense of gratitude for being able to work with the Conies and with the community on this project. If not but for the grace of God, there go I. And so to be able to get back and to be able to rebuild communities like the ones that I grew up in is just beyond my wildest dreams.
Wow. Board Member Young.
I just want to say, having two of these great projects that are right in the district that I'm representing, so I'm very proud and I'm really happy to see them come to fruition. And it's just, I'm really happy. So great job.
Board Member Carlson.
I just want to add one note. For anybody who doesn't know, Vanessa used to be with the city in charge of affordable housing, and I'm so glad that she stayed in the community and went to a great organization like the CDC, and thank you for bringing your expertise to them.
And congratulations. This will be a excellent property. It's so nice to see some of the things that we fought so hard for. 2 wonderful projects today that will really help people in East Tampa. All of them under 80% AMI. Very impressive. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you for our community members for really coming in and doing the work. We really do appreciate your hard work. Okay, so I have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco, I believe, and seconded from Board Member Young. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are now going to be adjourned for lunch until 1:30.